And this is the daughter of the inventor of the Freddo chocolate bar, which we have in front of us. Now, I remember at school these were 10p. 10p, 20p?
You remember them at school?
Yeah.
So we had a discussion in the green room, and I was absolutely hammered.
Are they the same size as the words?
I think they've got smaller, you know.
Of course they have.
Or maybe I've got bigger.
Well,
No,
we have all got bigger. You haven't actually got any bigger. You're still tiny. But, yeah, they have got smaller. Shrinkflation is a thing.
Is a thing. Yeah.
Depending on where you buy them, you can actually spend £1 for one of these. And they are tiny, weeny, as you can see there. I haven't bitten mine off yet.
18 grams, they're tiny.
The more shocking part of this entire story, Chris Akabusi, is that Chris is the only man on earth.
I've never heard of a Freddo.
What?
I've never heard of a Freddo. And look, there's no way. And then Dawn was trying to tell me that they were around when I was a kid. Absolutely.
You haven't lived. Eat it now. Open.
There's no way that a Freddo... I don't, you know... And then I was thinking... He says here that Freddo is used as a common yardstick to track inflation. No, it used to be the Mars bar.
No, it's the Freddo.
It used to be the Mars bar.
The humble Freddo.
This is... So what's so special about the Freddo?
Just eat it. It's amazing. Cheers.
Oh, cheers, my dear.
Bing.
Well, Chris, tracking the financial index yesterday,
yes,
I decided to have a Mars bar, and I was able to have 2 of them because they were so small.
Yeah.
So tiny.
Absolutely.
And thin.
Absolutely.
A disgrace of what a Mars bar used to be, or an Aztec bar, or a Topic bar, or...
Yeah, there you go.
Anything, yeah.
But you don't remember Freddo?
No, so
we are the same
Wagon Wheels, Curly Whirly...
Yeah.
GBNews, the People's Channel.
A very, very good afternoon to you. It's 3 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GBNews. We're broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. On today's show, Keir Starmer has been told to hold an emergency cabinet meeting on the migrant crisis after Epping Council sensationally defeated the Home Office yesterday. On today's show, we're joined by a brace of councillors and an MP who are all saying, we want to be the next Epping. And a GB News viewer sent us exclusive, shocking pictures of a children's classroom poster which they claim justifies jihad. On today's show, I'll ask a Muslim scholar, are our children being brainwashed into accepting Islamic extremism? And a pub landlord was ordered to remove union flags from outside his boozer after complaints from locals and the council. But as the flags had stopped the boats and blazoned across them, did the brewery have a point? Has his freedom of speech been flattened, or is this a flag too far? Now, have you ever wondered what's top of the pops when you pop your clogs? Well, today a list of the UK's top 10 funeral songs has been published. What would you choose for your final song? Me, it's a no-brainer. It's got to be AC/DC's classic, Highway to Hell. And I actually mean that. I said to my wife this morning, if I pop my clogs, I want Highway to Hell to be my final track. And she just did her usual thing. She rolled her eyes and walked out the door and fed the kids. I digress. On today's show, we have got an action-packed menu. Ever wondered whether thousands of asylum seekers have been squirreled away across the country since the general election? We've got a map that reveals all, and guess what? There's been, once again, a not-so-uniform distribution. What about Sir Keir Starmer? What about Westminster? Have they managed to make sure there are no illegals in my backyard? We've got the full inside skinny and a poster in a British classroom normalising jihad at a so-called, quote, turbo-woke school sent in by a GB News viewer whose child is at this school. I'll be talking to an Islamic scholar saying this might be brushed aside by the wokerati as I'll get over it. But actually, is this a drip feed of children being normalised to radical ideas within Islam? So much to talk about. Please get in touch. I've got 4 people in the studio with me today. Well, 3 if you count myself. I'm losing my mind. Let's get to the news.
Martin, thank you, and good afternoon to you. Just after 3 o'clock. Well, the top story: pressure is growing on the government after the High Court ruled asylum seekers must be moved out of Epping's Bell Hotel by the 12th of September. Councils across England are now weighing up their own legal bids, with Broxbourne in Hertfordshire taking advice, they say, as a matter of urgency. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage says his party will push for copycat cases in all 12 councils it controls. Well, the Conservatives' Chris Philp is calling on the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper to guarantee that asylum seekers won't simply be moved from hotels into apartments.
Well, the use of asylum hotels dropped considerably in the last 2 years of the last government. Illegal channel crossings went down by a third during our last full year in office. But what we've seen since the election is a record ever number of illegal immigrants cross the channel because Labour have lost control of our borders. Many councils, including Conservative councils, will be challenging the use of asylum hotels. Of course, it was a Conservative council, Epping, which successfully challenged the government because people don't want these hotels in the middle of their communities. But let's not forget, the reason these hotels are there in the first place is because this Labour government has lost control of our borders.
UK inflation has risen higher than expected, up 3.8% in July from 3.6% in June. The ONS says transport costs were the biggest driver, with airfares surging more than 30%. That's the sharpest monthly rise since records began. Treasury Minister Torsten Bell says the government will keep inflation under control while supporting households with the cost of living.
Price rises are disappointing for everybody. We've seen energy prices come down in July, but they're still too high. That's why it's so important that we keep easing the cost of living, keep acting on that. That's why we're raising the minimum wage, it's why we're capping bus fares, it's why we're extending free school meals, and it's why the stability that's allowed 5 interest rate cuts since the election is so important.
Well, just a brief bit of breaking news for you as Ukraine's allies are, of course, weighing up their security guarantees. Moscow warning against any talks without them at the table. But we're just hearing that Britain has now tightened sanctions on Russia, freezing assets on 8 new targets, from banks to crypto firms, all accused of helping Russia to sidestep current restrictions. But Moscow has just hit back, rolling out its own counter-sanctions on British media, NGOs and consultants in what they say outlets are in a tit-for-tat move. So that just latest update for you from Russia and Ukraine. Here, though, kneecap rapper Liam Ohana has appeared in court accused of supporting a banned terror group. Hundreds of supporters cheered him outside as he arrived. He's alleged to have displayed a Hezbollah flag during a gig last November. His defence team argued the case should be thrown out, claiming a technical error in how the charge was brought against him. The band has branded the prosecution as a calculated political decision. Well, a Sanex shower gel advert has been banned for reinforcing racial stereotypes. The TV ad showed black skin as cracked and itchy before cutting to a white woman with smooth, problem-free skin. Watchdogs ruled the imagery implied white skin was superior, upholding 2 complaints against the advert. Sanex owner Colgate-Palmolive has said the ad was meant to show the product working across different skin types and stressed its commitment to diversity. And in the sport, Liverpool's Mohamed Salah has made history, winning a record 3rd PFA Men's Player of the Year award. The 33-year-old scored 29 goals and 18 assists as the Reds powered to the Premier League title. On the women's side, Arsenal's Mariona Caldenti took the honour, netting 19 goals in her first season, including 8 on the Gunners' run to the Champions League glory against former club Barcelona. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Next, though, the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GBNews Financial Report.
And here are how those markets are shaping up for you this hour. The pound will buy you $1.3482 and 1.1571 euros. The price of gold is £2,476, 50 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,247 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GBNews Financial Report.
Thank you, Sam. Now, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has been told to hold an emergency cabinet meeting on the migrant crisis after Epping Council sensationally defeated the Home Office yesterday. And now, new research shows that 90% of councils have gained asylum seekers since Keir Starmer swept into power last year. Well, to discuss this, exclusive data shown to GB News, I'm joined in the studio by Ben Phillips, the Comms Director and the Vice Chairman of Stand For Our Sovereignty, who produced this report. I'm also joined by GB News' political correspondent Catherine Forster, GB News' senior political commentator Nigel Nelson, and the Conservative councillor for Broxbourne and Hoddesdon South, Paul Mason, who wants to be the next Epping. Ben, let's start with you first. This is amazing data. Thank you very much again to you and our friends at Stand for Our Sovereignty. Let's get the first graph up. The big question is, thousands of asylum seekers have been shoved around the country since Sir Keir Starmer came into power. Where have they ended up? You've got the full story. Let's get to our first map. This shows us the numbers. For those who can't see the map on screen, tell us the biggest losers, the biggest recipients of asylum seekers.
Well, it's rather like a weather map, Martin, actually. So the darker the shade, the more concentrated the numbers. So we see there. And the big victim, I suppose, that tops the list is Crawley, right in the middle of the south of England. There are 972. Others around London, Hillingdon at 928, Barnet, Hounslow, 720 and 562, Ealing as well, very high, and also around other parts of the country as well. Telford and Wrekin in the Midlands, West Northamptonshire 452 and 402 respectively.
Now I'm noticing something here straight away. They're almost entirely Labour constituencies. In terms of the parliamentary constituencies, the MP for Crawley, Peter Lamb, Hillingdon, John McDonnell, also David Simmons. We've got a lot of left-wing people in that list. They're basically being Sir Keir Starmer's crash mat. They're allowing the asylum seekers to go into their constituencies. That's in terms of the numbers. You've got another graph now. This is the percentage increase. So compared to the year before, who are the big winners and losers?
Well, again, Crawley tops the list here at 128.4%, a huge increase. And this is the data, Martin, to be clear, from June of last year to March of this year.
So it's 9 months, not the full year.
Yeah, indeed.
So it will be more.
That's right, indeed. I mean, we've had 5 months elapsed since then. It'll be even higher now. But this, of course, has happened under the present government's watch. Next up, Nuneaton and Bedworth in the Midlands at 93%. Boston and Bolsover, of course, key red wall seats at 81 and 80% as well. So those MPs are going to be very, very worried indeed. South Staffordshire, another part of the Midlands, and Telford and Wrekin as well at 64%.
Just want to point out that the huge outlier here is Crawley. Now, I've been speaking with people in the protest group in Crawley. They are absolutely astonished by the revelations here. We did reach out to Peter Lamb, the Labour MP for Crawley. Cat's got his tongue.
Yeah, I know.
No comment has come in from him. If you're watching, Mr. Lamb, please get in touch. We'd like to know what you think about the fact you've had a 128% increase in asylum seekers in your constituency, almost 1,000 since the Prime Minister came into power. Now, you've done a huge amount of research as well, Ben Phillips, into where the numbers have gone down. But to boil that down to one amazing chart, let's get on to our final graphic. Crawley, as we can see, the soar away loser, but,
absolutely.
At the other end of the spectrum, who's done pretty well out of this?
Well, how about that? Westminster, what a surprise. Reduction of 390 or a 25% decrease. I mean, talk about the ruled being out of touch with what's going on around the rest of the country. And, of course, Keir Starmer's own constituency of Camden, a mere 43 people or a 2.8% increase as compared to the UK national average of 14%.
OK, so astonishing data. Thank you once again, our friends at Stand for Our Sovereignty. And by the way, if you want to get involved in that group, go online, Stand for Our Sovereignty. They're very, very active and they're producing some great reports for us. Ben Phillips, thank you very much. We can see there Catherine Forster. Let's talk about the political landscape here. Quite clearly, a big takeaway from that is that Westminster are saying NIMBY, no illegals in my backyard. The numbers are down in Westminster, but they're getting shoved around the country into working class constituencies, and meanwhile, this is becoming a severe political headache for the Prime Minister.
It's an absolute nightmare for the government. The Prime Minister is in Scotland trying to have a holiday. He's already had to interrupt it once to go off to Washington to be there for Zelensky the other day. For the Home Office, this judgment in Epping is absolutely dreadful because it sets a precedent. There may be dozens of councils, we all know of some of them already, likely to make similar legal challenges because the fact of the matter is local communities do not like having large numbers of asylum seekers, usually young men, about which they know little, in their midst, whether it's in a hotel, which is seen as incredibly unfair, that you effectively break in the country and then are rewarded by being put up in a hotel, or in a house of multiple occupation where you could literally have people next door.
Your microphone's fallen off.
But, you know, whatever the government does about this, these people have got to be put up somewhere. And in the case of their hotel contracts, a lot of these contracts have already been signed right through to 2029. So if many of these hotels have to be emptied, we could end up in the ridiculous situation that British taxpayers are paying for hotels that are not being used and also paying for asylum seekers to be housed.
I think that point is worth repeating there. And we have heard this all over the country. The government is paying huge chunks of money up front to companies such as Serco, Mears and the like, contracts which run until the term of the government, 2029. If these hotels are overturned in these areas, probably the government will have to pay the money anyway, even though they're vacant. And then they'll have to go and put them somewhere else. The government could have to pay twice, Catherine.
Yes, exactly. And there's currently 32,000 asylum seekers in hotels. The average stay is about 6 months. There's 106,000 asylum seekers working their way through the system. Now, of course, the government will say they're speeding up processing. But look, this is phenomenally expensive. And no matter that they might be speeding up processing and getting people out of hotels into houses of multiple occupation, the fact of the matter is that since Labour came in, 50,000 people have crossed the Channel illegally on small boats. It's up 50% this year on last year. So it's like trying to empty a bucket when you've got a massive hole in the bottom.
Let's bring on my next guest now. This just gets more farcical. It really gets more farcical by the minute. Let's bring on my next guest now. It's Paul Mason, Conservative councillor for Broxbourne and Hoddesdon South, because, Mr Mason, your council, basically, you ought to be the next Epping, and you've set out your case. You think you can also follow suit?
Well, as soon as we saw the result yesterday, Nigel, we were first out the traps to ensure that we would look at sort of taking legal advice in pursuing the same course of action that Epping have taken. And I would just sort of follow on from what Catherine said a moment ago. One of the things, it's the strain on the community, the strain on our public services, picking up that's another problem. It's just not all the issues that you've just mentioned. It's on our medical services, our housing. It is a big strain, and it is a cost to the community. And it's important for us as the local council to make sure that we protect the needs of local people.
And as I understand it, in your constituency, not only are people coming to the country perhaps illegally, they're getting full board, full lodgings, they're being taken care of by the taxpayer, but some of them weren't even happy about that.
Well, we've had, over the last couple of years, we've had incidents where the police have been called, where some of the people in the hotels have been kicking up and rioting over the quality of the food, which is being paid for by the taxpayer.
So they're getting free tuck and they're not happy about it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
This is just like a national joke. This is like, now they're coming to the country, you know, perhaps on a dinghy. Most likely that's the case. They're getting paid for by the British taxpayer, and then they're almost doing a TripAdvisor review to the British taxpayer saying we're not very happy about this.
Yeah.
I mean, are we being mugged off?
Personally, I think it's an absolute national disgrace that we're borrowing money to pay for people that are coming over, putting them up in luxury hotels and funding. And what's worse, once their asylum application has been assessed, what we're finding, they're just opening the doors, throwing them out the hotel, and they're walking out onto the streets. We're not even deporting them. This is what the public don't know, that the government aren't deporting people where their applications have failed. They're opening the door and sending them out to the local council to be housed. We send them over to Luton, where they might get a better popular, more friendly response.
And a nicer morning breakfast.
Hopefully, for them.
Paul Mason, on a serious point, how likely do you think it is that you're going to be successful as Epping were? Are your lawyers ostensibly looking at what happened yesterday and thinking, yeah, we can do exactly the same, and we're going to file?
Well, at the moment, it's early doors at the moment. Our lawyers at the council are looking at taking legal advice. We are speaking to Epping, and we are looking at the merits of their case and looking how we can apply those same processes to any action that we take. But we're really determined to do something. It's just not good enough. You know, there are lots of concerns in the local community about the hotels. Our local MP, Lewis Cocking, I mean, he's made a number of statements in Parliament. He's written to the Home Secretary. He thinks they should be detained, and I would disagree with his view.
So rather than be put in a hotel, they should be put where?
We should be controlling them. That was the responsibility of the government and the Home Office, but they shouldn't be just put in community, taking over our local hotels, and the Home Office paying large sums of money, millions and millions of pounds, to put them in these hotels. Some of these hotels aren't viable financially, and they're being bailed out by the large sums of money that's being paid out to them. Okay. It is an outrage.
Nigel Nelson, let's bring you in now. No matter how you window dress this is an unmitigated disaster for the Labour Party. The notion that this hasn't been seen before, I think, in itself I find astonishing. The fact that a planning rule wasn't followed, you can't just turn a hotel into a permanent residence where British citizens aren't allowed to book. On the planning rule alone, the Labour Party Home Office has been defeated. And as you can see there from Paul Mason, and no doubt a multitude of others that will come forth, this is the chain reaction the government has no control over.
Well, it's absolutely right, because planning is a local authority issue, and if planning rules have been broken, which they shouldn't have been, I agree with that if there was a change of use, that should have gone through planning as every other planning application would have done. As far as the hotels go, bear in mind that this government is spending £2 billion a year on hotels compared to £3 billion under the Tories, and the number of hotels being used has halved. So progress is being made. The problem now, quite clearly, is if an awful lot of councils follow the lead of Epping, the government have a real problem about where do you put these asylum seekers. 138 out of the Bell Hotel, for starters. There could be plenty of more. Or where do they go? And wherever they go, there'll be protests.
I've got a nice, neat lead now into my next item. Thank you for teeing me up, because where do they go next? If the hotels are full, or the guest house has that sign on the window saying no vacancies, courtesy of the British taxpayer, if the HMOs in your towns are full, where should we send them? Oh, well, there's been a lot of protest against housing asylum seekers in hotels over the last few years. Politicians themselves have been very, very outspoken about welcoming refugees. Let's take a little look. That includes the now Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper. There we go. Refugees welcome, she says. How about we send a few busloads to Pontefract? Well, the former Green MP for Brighton, Caroline Lucas, there she is. She's even made a little heart. Refugees welcome. How about we ship a bunch down to Brighton, Caroline Lucas? What about that man, the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, of course? Refugees welcome in London. Nobody has a say. How about we send a load to City Hall? And that man there, of course, Jeremy Corbyn, the People's Republic of Islington North. How about we ship a few coach loads to Jesus Patch? How would he like it? And, of course, here he is pictured with his former Labour colleagues, Diane Abbott, John McDonnell, Clive Lewis, plus, of course, Baroness Chakrabarti, now tucked up in the House of Lords, neatly in her ermine. What about this lot? Why don't they take the refugees? Why is it always the British taxpayers who have no say? If you really mean it, let's see if you've got room in your spare room, in your street, or perhaps even on your allotment, Jeremy Corbyn. Now, the former Minister, of course, of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, look at that. We have room, she said. In fact, Miss Sturgeon famously offered one of her spare rooms, and to my certain knowledge, it was never occupied by an asylum seeker. What a surprise. And even celebrities, of course, got in on the act, including award-winning lovely actor Alan Cummings. There we go. Refugees welcome. I bet you haven't got one in your garden, mate. And the activist and the actress, the omnipresent Bianca Jagger, formerly married, of course, to Mick Jagger. Refugees welcome. I put it to you. I put it to you. These people are always the same. Say as I say, not as I do. Nigel Nelson, the left are the ultimate hypocrites.
Well, I mean, I think it's unrealistic to suggest that the answer to the asylum crisis is to put them in Jeremy Corbyn's bedroom or in his allotment. Well, because he'll take one. How many can you get on Jeremy Corbyn's allotment? A couple. What we need is some kind of long-term solution.
Get him into his shed next to his prize-winning marrows.
Well, yes, but you're not going to solve the asylum crisis by something like that.
Well, they could lead by example. Stop flapping your lips and actually take some action.
The kind of thing that you need to look at is a military base like Wethersfield, but then you remember the local protests around that. It's things like holiday camps that are not being used, if you could use that. There are also 720,000 empty homes in England at the moment.
Have you got any idea how many people watching the show can't get social housing?
Yes, I have. Double that number on social housing.
And you're about sending them to Pontins.
So what I'm saying is
they complain about that on TripAdvisor.
There are options out there, but each option has a problem that goes along with it. Local people don't want it. If you hand over empty homes, there are people on housing waiting lists who are waiting for those very homes and may have been waiting years for them. So whatever you do, there is no good option here. There's only the least worst.
There is. Catherine, you're waiting patiently. There is an option. Rather than paying pass a political parcel, close the blooming borders. Do as you're told by the electorate, Catherine.
Okay. I'd just like to say, you know, it isn't entirely a left-right issue, because if you look at Denmark have a left-of-centre government. They have taken a very hard line on immigration now for several years. They have put out all sorts of "you are not welcome" messages, and asylum applications in Denmark now are at a 40-year low. They are also in the EU, which we are not. So it can be done. Of course, what we need to do is prevent people coming in the first place.
You're exactly right, and that takes political gumption. It takes stones. It takes, actually, listening to the electorate. The Danes did it. Why can't we? It's because, I believe, my opinion, I don't think the government's heart is in it. Yeah. I sincerely don't think... I mean, do you agree with me there, Paul Mason? They can say, like the Tories said, they wanted to get Brexit and half of them didn't. Half of them didn't agree with it. The Labour Party, half of them, I don't think, want to control the borders. Perhaps, actually, they think open borders is a beautiful thing. They're all refugees welcome at heart.
I think you're absolutely right. They're doing it with a weak heart. They don't really believe in what they're saying. That's the problem. We do need to take down the welcome signs and stop immigration. But we had a policy, the Tories had a policy, Rwanda. That was the option we had. They should be moved to a safe option like Rwanda. And Labour done away with that policy. And we saw an increase in the number of migrants coming over. It was a wrong decision. The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, got it wrong. She should resign.
OK, well, strong words. Well, earlier on, GBNews spoke to the Pensions Minister, Torsten Bell, about the ruling on the Epping Asylum Hotel.
We'll carefully consider the court's judgment, but we inherited a completely broken asylum system, a disgraceful situation. Under the Conservatives, we had up to 400 asylum hotels. We brought those numbers down, and we're working closely with communities to make sure we close all asylum hotels over the course of this Parliament.
What was his name again?
OK, thank you very much, mate. Still talking. Paul Mason, my superb guest there, Ben Phillips, Catherine Forster, Nigel Nelson. A great start to the show. Thank you all very, very much indeed. Now, coming up, left-wingers are putting the boot into Nigel Farage after the Reform UK gaffer launched a Reform FC football shirt. Rather getting shirty just for the sake of it. This is GB News, British News Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. It's 3:29. You're with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, Nigel Farage has announced Reform FC. Let's take a look at the announcement.
We are Reform FC, and I'm proud to be its manager. What a season we're having. We're right at the top of the leaderboard. We're 9 points clear of our nearest rivals.
Well, now left-wingers are putting the boot into Nigel Farage. Now the Reform UK gaffer is flogging these Reform FC football shirts online at 35 quid a pop. Now, critics have accused Mr Farage, who's always said we should keep the politics out of football, of hypocrisy. Well, do they have a point, or are they getting shirty for the sake of it? Well, let's have a look. One of those people who criticised this move, by the way, over something else, was the Labour MP for Dover and Deal, Mike Tapp. He posted on X 3 Union Jack emojis and said, just a reminder to our Reform friends of what our great flag looks like. And then at the end, he had the unhappy face emoji, because the flag has got a white Union flag. It's a football shirt. It's monochromatic. That tends to be what they do. Let's discuss this. Nigel Nelson, you have the shirt there. You're not wearing it, but...
Yeah, I won't be wearing it, but this is just what it looks like.
And show us the back, because the back has significance too. The back
there
says...
we go, that's the back,
sure
of it.
You can see the name, mate.
You need the name up on the top there.
It says Farage 10, of course, with options, designs to be in number 10, made in Britain, it says at the top there, and Farage Reform FC. I would have liked you to have worn it.
I'm sure.
But I'm sure you might have ended up throwing your coffee at me and going off and even...
You would have had to chain me up for that.
Indeed. So let's have a chat about this. It's a bit of fun.
Yeah,
Reform FC started. They were popular. I think actually 5,000 of these things have been printed. They've all completely sold out. But he's getting a lot of stick over the hypocrisy of politics and sport. What say you?
I think everyone does this. It's merchandising. Every party has a way of merchandising something or other. So I don't really have a problem with it. I mean, in fact, Reform have been very bad, curiously, about raising money from their members, that you can pay your 20 quid to join the party. But it's very difficult to actually add money on top of that unless you've got $500,000 or $1 million to spare. So obviously what Reform has done has gone in for merchandising. This is the first one. I'm sure there'll be loads of other things coming in the future. Nigel Farage slacks, Nigel Farage tops, Nigel Farage wind cheaters, all sorts of things.
I think I could see you in one of them, maybe a Nigel Farage onesie. See one of them. On a serious point, there is one where it's signed on the back by Nigel Farage. They go for 99 quid a pop. Apparently they've all sold out as well. 99 quid.
Yeah, it's expensive, but I mean, a lot of them, this is the same with other political parties. They do it to raise money for campaigning. It's a normal part and parcel of the way we run our political system in this country.
And of course, there have been a few jokes, like saying everybody who wears this shirt plays on the right wing. You can see what they did there. No?
Yeah, I know, I can, yes. I mean, it just wasn't very funny.
Come on, have a sense of humour, you curmudgeon. But, so are you saying then, ostensibly, this is a bit of a storm in a teacup, because like Mike Tapp, GQ, The Times, they've been laying in saying this is hypocrisy. Farage is always saying, Mr. Farage is always saying, no taking the knee in sport, keep politics out, no rainbow lanyards, no politics in sport whatsoever. He's been saying that consistently, but this is clearly a football shirt for reform. But you're saying there's no problem?
I don't think so, because everyone does it. And we're not talking about putting politics into sport. We're talking about a bit of fun, which is that shirt.
I can see you ordering one. At this rate, Nigel Nelson, I can see.
No, I will not. I promise you, I will not be wearing one.
Superb stuff. Thank you very, very much. There you go. You see, you don't always have to fall out about politics. We can have a bit of fun too. Now, there's more still to come between now and 4 o'clock, including experts warn Labour's eco-friendly rewilding plans. That's where farmers, are paid not to plant anything. They just let the grass grow and the insects roam. Well, they're being told those plans could turn the countryside into a giant tinderbox with wildfires terrorising Britain. It's meant to be good for the environment. Could it be an eco-disaster? But first, here's your latest news headlines, and here's Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you. The top stories at 3:30. First, asylum housing in the spotlight. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp is calling for guarantees that migrants won't simply be moved from hotels into apartments. It's after a High Court ruling ordered the Bell Hotel to stop housing them by the 12th of September. Councils across England are now seeking legal advice to do the same. UK inflation has risen faster than expected, up to 3.8% in July. Transport costs soared, with airfares spiking 30% month on month. That is the largest jump since 2001. Rapper Liam O'Hanna has appeared in court accused of supporting Hezbollah. Hundreds of his supporters cheered today, while his defence have called the case to be thrown out over a technical error. The group says the charges are a calculated political decision. The UK has added 8 new names to its Russia sanctions list, targeting crypto networks used to bypass restrictions. Russia's retaliated with counter-sanctions on British media, NGOs and consultancies in a familiar tit-for-tat. And the Royal Mint is sending one last royal wave. 23 million Queen Elizabeth £1 coins are now entering circulation. The final batch of coins bearing Her Majesty's face is hitting wallets, purses and piggy banks nationwide. A little piece of history you can actually spend. Those are the headlines. I'll be back with the news at 4.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello again, very good day to you. This is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots more fine weather to come as we go through the rest of this week, but at the moment there's still a bit of a breeze across eastern parts and could be a bit chilly for some of us tonight. Currently, yes, there is a weak cold front lying across parts of the southwest, but that's not brought a huge amount of rain. It's just brought some thicker cloud, perhaps across parts of Devon and Cornwall, and will continue to do so for a little while yet. Otherwise, a fine picture to end the day for most of us, and staying dry with some clear skies for many as we go overnight as well. A few showers possible for Orkney and Shetland, and perhaps towards the far coastal parts of East Anglia and Kent as well. Where we get those clear skies towards the west could turn a little chilly, whilst towns and cities are generally going to hold up in double figures. Some rural spots could drop to low single figures. So a bit of a fresh, chilly start tomorrow for many of us. Across parts of southeastern England, a bit more cloud here, still a few coastal showers perhaps, but across the rest of England and Wales, it's looking largely fine to start. Some decent sunshine, quite bright across parts of Northern Ireland. Some thicker cloud across central southern Scotland, perhaps bringing a few spots of rain, but further north, away from the Northern Isles where there could still be a few showers around, it's looking like a fine start to the day. Now we are going to see a bit more cloud bubbling up perhaps as we go through the morning, but this should actually start to break up again as we go into the afternoon. So across central eastern parts, there should be some brighter spells, but perhaps the best of the sunshine towards the southwest and also across northern, northwestern parts of Scotland. In the sunshine, feeling pretty warm with temperatures in the low 20s, but towards those North Sea coastal parts, still a bit more of a breeze, and if you get that, that's going to make it feel fresher, and temperatures will be that little bit lower here as well. Staying fine for many as we go through the end of the day tomorrow, and it's looking fine as we go through Friday and much of the weekend. Yes, there will be a few showers around, but most of us will avoid these, and actually temperatures are going to climb up a little.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Traffic disruptions affect multiple routes. Significant congestion is on the M6 northbound between junctions 15 and 16 in Staffordshire. The M10 northbound at junction 25 in Derbyshire has a road crash closing 2 lanes. In Kent, a broken down vehicle on the M25 anti-clockwise at junction 2 has restricted lanes. Roadworks have closed the on-slip with diversions for eastbound travellers on the A465 near Gleneath. And on the trains, major disruptions continue affecting Avanti West Coast in Wigan Northwestern. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. It's 3:38 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, summer harvests across the country are starting to come to an end, but long spells of dry weather has meant that many yields are well below the national and annual average. And our national reporter Jack Carlson spent the day on a farm in Lincolnshire to find out more.
After another gruelling harvest, there's no rest for farmer Andrew Ward and his team in Lincolnshire. Combines need to be cleaned and fields cultivated. However, little to no rainfall since spring has meant arable farmers across the country are struggling.
So here we've got a heap of spring malting barley. This goes to make whiskey and beer. This crop was planted in March and harvested end of July. Now, normally this building, this grain store, the heap would be about 3 feet higher than it is now, and it would be full to the door. So we've got a very, very reduced amount of grain due to the dry weather. So the lack of rain has been catastrophic, especially to spring crops.
Activists say climate change is causing more extreme weather, whether that's droughts or flooding. But Andrew disputes the claim.
I've got rainfall figures going back 27 years. And for me, anything more than 100 millimetres of rain in a month is a lot of water. 1976 was an extremely hot year. That was years ago. That was like 50 years ago. And you look at it now, where we are today, and yet people are saying that it's the climate that's causing today. We were getting those problems and those weather effects years ago. It's the variations of weather that we get all the time.
Trouble at harvest soon has a domino effect, not only with the UK's food security, but livestock too. Straw and fodder shortages are already being reported, leaving some farmers starting to use reserves, usually left for the winter months. But even where crop yields have been average, Andrew says he faces selling his wheat and barley for less than the price more than 10 years ago.
The problem we've got at the minute is grain prices are really poor. At the moment, we're selling grain now. Wheat, feed wheat, is around about £165, £170 per tonne. To put that in perspective, 2012, so that is like 13 years ago, wheat was £200 a tonne. So we were receiving £35 a tonne more 13 years ago. Yet the cost of growing that crop are not what it was in 2012. So whether it's fertiliser, whether it's agrochemical products, fuel as well, and labour, wages we're paying more for, national insurance, everything we're paying today's rate, but we're selling our crops at a lot less than it was in 2012. And that is not sustainable. It can't carry on. There are more farms for sale nationally than there has been for years. And that is the ones that people know about. There are a lot of farms that are now on the market and a lot of deals being done with people and friends and neighbours that is not publicised.
As another harvest goes by, farmers are warning that unsustainable costs mean more shed doors could soon be closed for good. Jack Carson, GB News, Lincolnshire.
Great word there from Jack Carlson. Let me tell you, there's Andrew Ward, who grows grain for beer and spirits. I think he does more than his fair share of supping some of that too. He's a good pal of mine. Staying on the farming tickle now, farmers and gamekeepers are warning that there is a risk of wildfires as the government proposes to ban winter burning. Let's get the thoughts now of the dairy farmer and the columnist Jamie Blackett. Jamie, welcome to the studios. A pleasure to have your company, if you're there. Jamie, welcome to the show. Isn't this a case, once again, of the government, the Department of Agriculture, saying the best thing to do is to let your land grow wild. In fact, we'll pay you to not grow anything. And the problem is that can then turn the land into a tinderbox. And now we hear they're banning the traditional burning of uplands in Scotland for the same purpose. And that too could turn the British countryside into a tinderbox.
Well, I think it's actually both sides of the border. There is this agenda to reduce the depth of the peat that you can burn on to 30 centimetres, which coincidentally is, and this is purely ideological, is a lot of the areas of grouse moors, areas of uplands managed primarily for grouse, but also for sheep and cattle. They won't be able to burn, and therefore the heather will go rank and tall, the bracken will increase, and that's going to cause big problems. There'll be more ticks, more Lyme disease, and there will be a lot less for native species that rely on short heather and bilberry and other species that are helped by the burning. And the other strange thing is, and this is why it's purely ideological, not practical, is you're going to have many more wildfires and much more carbon pushed into the atmosphere by these wildfires. The controlled burning that's been done up to now, and it's been happening for millennia. Since man first discovered fire, we've been burning fire breaks and burning patches of heather and upland habitat, partly for the fire breaks, but also to create these habitats that are better for grazing animals and for all the wildlife. But if they stop that, you're right, it's just going to become a tinderbox, and the burning that lets off a tiny bit of carbon, but then actually creates the sphagnum moss and the other carbon-forming species that are allowed to grow after the burning, and there will be less carbon sequestration in the soil and more carbon released into the atmosphere. Right. And this is natural England, who are a quango that are costing us all a lot of money. They cost us money twice over. Huge salaries for all these civil servants, and then they make the wrong decisions, like stopping heather burning. We get these big wildfires, and then the poor old ratepayers and taxpayers have to pick up the bill for the fire brigades trying to put these fires out.
OK, Jamie Blackett, thank you very much for your expertise. We have to leave it there. Pleasure to have you on the show. Now we have some breaking news for you now here at GB News, and it's this. A former priest. No, let's get the breaking news on the screen now. A former priest accused of abusing members of a church group he led has been found guilty of 17 counts of indecent assault. Chris Brain, 68, was head of the 9 o'clock service, an influential evangelical movement based in Sheffield in the 1980s and the 1990s. And we'll bring you more on the story as we get it. Just to repeat that breaking news story, a former priest accused of abusing members of a church group he led has been found guilty of 17 counts of indecent assault. Colin Brain, 68, was head of the 9 o'clock service, an influential evangelical movement based in Sheffield in the 80s and the 90s. We'll have more details on that story as they break. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
OK, at 7:32, tributes are flooding in for the Apollo 13 commander, Jim Lovell, who has died aged 97.
97, wow. He guided the failed space mission back to Earth
after that attempt to land on the moon was aborted following an oxygen tank explosion.
Tom Hanks, the movie star who played him, honoured the legendary astronaut in an emotional tribute, calling him a true visionary. I think they really got to know each other well during the making of that movie. That's 30 years after he played Lovell in the 1995 film Apollo 13.
And the Apollo 13 movie was very accurate because Lovell was working on the Apollo 13 movie to ensure there was accuracy. There was a few bits of movie license to make it a little bit more dramatic here and there, but it was a very accurate depiction, and it showed Lovell in the wonderful light of who he was.
And they gave him a little cameo at the end, didn't they? He actually played a part. He played the commander of the ship, the naval ship,
that's right,
that picked up the astronauts.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people realise that. He was actually in the Apollo 13 movie. And Tom Hanks and Lovell spent a lot of time together so that Tom could act the role in as accurate a way as possible. He picked up a lot of his mannerisms to make sure it was accurate. But it must have been wonderful for Jim to actually be on the movie itself. We're just sort of scratching the surface of our spacefaring nature. We've been to the moon, although there's been a bit of a hiatus of going to the moon, but we've got the Artemis projects coming up in the next sort of 5-10 years, where we hope to get people back on the moon again. And let's not forget, this is all relatively new technology.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's approaching 10 to 4. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, we've sent our very own Doogie Beattie to Benidorm for a spot of sunshine and to find out what the great British hollymaker there is thinking of the headlines back here at home. Doogie Beattie, once again, I got severe job envy. Doogie Beattie, you're out there in Benidorm. Tell us, what are the Brits talking about?
Well, today, Martin, they're only talking about one thing, and that is the inflation that's going up, up, up. And of course, we spoke about farming nearly 2 years ago, that exactly what your last guests were saying was going to happen, and of course, it did happen. And don't forget, inflation in food went up over 20% at the start of the Ukraine war. It didn't come down, it just dropped the price, how quickly it was rising. So from 2 years ago, Brits are a lot worse off. I've been in Benidorm. I was here in the Cheltenham Festival, didn't think a lot of it. My mind has changed. It has three parts to it. Beautiful beach at the bottom. It has what they call the strip, which is for young people, and it's a little bit mad. And then it has this area here. This is the old town. Look at this, Martin. Cafes, designer shops, everything that you could ever want on holidays. A beautiful spot to come, and only 2 hours away from Britain. And joining me now is two people that did exactly that over 19 years ago. Hello, ladies. Why did you decide to come and live in Benidorm?
You'll probably edit it out because there's too many foreigners in the UK.
Honestly.
We lost our rights. Freedom of speech went.
And you decided to pack them and leave?
Yeah, I said, nah, I ain't doing it no more. I'm off. I'm on. Nah. Britain lost the plot 20 years ago. Sorry.
And what about you? How do you find inflation here? Is it as bad as Britain?
No, it's a more relaxed lifestyle. You've got the weather, your utility bills are a lot lower. So the cost of living here is a lot lower than England. And the lifestyle is more relaxed. You've no animosity. It's just so brilliant.
And, I mean, you obviously would recommend it to others, but what do you think of the inflation, how the government's doing inside Britain at this minute in time?
I don't think I can say it on air because I think they're absolute crap. And I just think it's the worst government ever, and they keep blaming everyone for the black hole. And when are they going to take responsibility for themselves?
Well, there you go, Martin. That is the thoughts of expats living here in Benidorm. They decided to pack up and leave in the round of 2007. That was right in the middle of a property crash, if you remember. But they have settled life here inside Spain and find it much better, not as big inflation. Prices were more acceptable. I mean, yesterday we had a £5 fry in the morning, and it was a jumbo fry, very good fry as well. How can they do it for £5? They haven't got the same national insurance going on top of their employees. They haven't got all these taxes coming in on top of them, and it is a socialist government in Spain. So how are they doing it, and should Britain be following suit?
Really beautiful stuff there, and if that was the censored version from the ladies, and I wonder what they're going to say to you afterwards, after dark. Dougie Beattie, thank you very much for joining us there live from Benidorm. Nigel Nelson, there you have it. I mean, straight to the chase. Brits leaving the country for a more relaxed lifestyle abroad, cheaper, less imbibed in immigration. These are the issues people talking about abroad, and I dare say a lot of people watching those images thinking, yeah, they got the right idea.
Yeah, I have to say I was a bit curious about the idea of leaving Britain because of too many foreigners here and then going to a place which is full of Spanish people. But if that's what they want to do, fair dues. I mean, obviously, the climate's really good. If the socialist government there is getting the economy right, then that's a plus as well. Certainly, those two ladies seem to think so. And yes, they are right. Inflation is going up. It's going to go up even further. We'll probably hit 4% next month. That should be the peak, and if we're lucky, it'll all start to come down again.
OK, yeah. Well, maybe you just found the first good word about socialism that we've probably ever had on this channel. Nigel Nelson, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. See you in the next hour. Now, coming up next, Keir Starmer has been told to hold an emergency cabinet meeting on the migrant crisis. Reform UK's MP Sarah Pochin joins me live in the studio. That's next with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News Britain's Channel. Now it's time for your weather.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, very good day to you. This is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots more fine weather to come as we go through the rest of this week, but at the moment there's still a bit of a breeze across eastern parts and could be a bit chilly for some of us tonight. Currently, yes, there is a weak cold front lying across parts of the southwest, but that's not brought a huge amount of rain. It's just brought some thicker cloud, perhaps across parts of Devon and Cornwall, and will continue to do so for a little while yet. Otherwise, a fine picture to end the day for most of us, and staying dry with some clear skies for many as we go overnight as well. A few showers possible for Orkney and Shetland, and perhaps towards the far coastal parts of East Anglia and Kent as well. Where we get those clear skies towards the west could turn a little chilly, whilst towns and cities are generally going to hold up in double figures. Some rural spots could drop to low single figures. So a bit of a fresh, chilly start tomorrow for many of us. Across parts of southeastern England, a bit more cloud here, still a few coastal showers perhaps, but across the rest of England and Wales it's looking largely fine to start. Some decent sunshine, quite bright across parts of Northern Ireland. Some thicker cloud across central southern Scotland, perhaps bringing a few spots of rain, but further north, away from the Northern Isles where there could still be a few showers around, it's looking like a fine start to the day. Now we are going to see a bit more cloud bubbling up perhaps as we go through the morning, but this should actually start to break up again as we go into the afternoon. So across central eastern parts there should be some brighter spells, but perhaps the best of the sunshine towards the southwest and also across northern, northwestern parts of Scotland. In the sunshine, feeling pretty warm with temperatures in the low 20s, but towards those North Sea coastal parts, still a bit more of a breeze, and if you get that, that's going to make it feel fresher, and temperatures will be that little bit lower here as well. Staying fine for many as we go through the end of the day tomorrow, and it's looking fine as we go through Friday and much of the weekend. Yes, there will be a few showers around, but most of us will avoid these, and actually temperatures are going to climb up a little.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Delays are impacting several key routes today. On the A465 eastbound near Glynneath, roadworks have closed the onslip with diversions in place. In Staffordshire, the M6 northbound between junction 15 and 16 is experiencing congestion, causing delays of 2 hours. Moving to Derbyshire, on the M1 northbound at junction 25, a collision has closed one of 4 lanes, leading to delays of 20 minutes. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and Northern lines are facing major disruptions in the Wigan northwestern area. Stay up to date for road and rail developments to plan your journey. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. On today's show, Keir Starmer has been told to hold an emergency cabinet meeting on the migrant crisis after Epping Council yesterday sensationally defeated the Home Office. On today's show, we'll be joined by 2 councillors and Sarah Pochin, MP for Reform UK. They're all saying, we want to be the next Epping. And a sensational GB News viewer exclusive here. A viewer sent us shocking pictures of a children's classroom poster that they claim justifies jihad. On today's show, I'll ask a Muslim scholar, are our children being brainwashed into accepting Islamic extremism in our classrooms? And a pub landlord was ordered to remove union flags from outside his boozer after complaints from locals and the council. But as the flags had stopped the boats across them, did the brewery have a point? Has his freedom of speech been flattened, or is this a flag too far? I'll be joined by the Governor. Never wondered what's top of the pops when you pop your clogs? Well, today a list of the UK's top 10 funeral songs has been published. What would you choose for your final swan song? Me, it's a no-brainer. It's got to be AC/DC's Highway to Hell. It's all coming in your next hour. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. I'm joined in the studio by Sarah Pochin, Reform UK MP for Runcorn. She's one of the many politicians across the country who, frankly, wants a piece of the action that Epping seems to have precipitated a domino effect, a chain reaction, perhaps now the government simply cannot control after the government was defeated in Epping. Where could be next? Also got sensational data showing where thousands of asylum seekers have been dumped since Keir Starmer got into power. Who are the winners? Who are the losers? And how many or how few Well, the parliamentarians who say refugees welcome getting in their constituencies. We've got the full exclusive data and that incredible exclusive. A GB News viewer sent us a poster of something in their child's classroom, which they claim is justifying jihad. Or are kids being brainwashed into Islamic extremism from within British classrooms? Get involved the usual ways. gbnews.com/you'll say is the way to do so. But now it's time for your headlines, and here's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and good afternoon to you. The top story this hour. Pressure is growing on the government after the High Court has ruled asylum seekers must move out of Epping's Bell Hotel by the 12th of September. Councils across England are now weighing up their own legal bids, with Broxbourne in Hertfordshire taking advice, they say, as a matter of urgency. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage says his party will push for copycat cases in all 12 councils it controls. Well, the Conservatives' Chris Philp is calling on the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper to guarantee that asylum seekers won't simply be moved from hotels into apartments.
Well, the use of asylum hotels dropped considerably in the last 2 years of the last government. Illegal channel crossings went down by a third during our last full year in office. But what we've seen since the election is a record ever number of illegal immigrants cross the channel because Labour have lost control of our borders. Many councils, including Conservative councils, will be challenging the use of asylum hotels. Of course, it was a Conservative council, Epping, which successfully challenged the government because people don't want these hotels in the middle of their communities. But let's not forget, the reason these hotels are there in the first place is because this Labour government has lost control of our borders.
In other news this hour, a former priest who once led a powerful evangelical movement has been exposed as a sexual predator. 68-year-old Christopher Brain, head of the 9 o'clock service in Sheffield, was today found guilty of 17 counts of indecent assault against 9 women in the 1980s and 90s. Jurors heard Brain turned the church group into a cult, surrounding himself with young women he groomed and abused under the guise of spiritual care. He showed no emotion as the verdicts were read out. The jury is still considering further charges, including rape. UK inflation has risen for higher than expected, up to 3.8% in July from 3.6% in June. The ONS says transport costs were the biggest driver, with airfares surging more than 30%. That's the sharpest monthly rise since records began. Treasury Minister Torsten Bell says the government, though, will keep inflation under control while supporting households with the cost of living.
Price rises are disappointing for everybody. We've seen energy prices come down in July, but they're still too high. That's why it's so important that we keep easing the cost of living, keep acting on that. That's why we're raising the minimum wage, it's why we're capping bus fares, it's why we're extending free school meals, and it's why the stability that's allowed 5 interest rate cuts since the election is so important.
Kneecap rapper Liam O'Hanna has appeared in court today accused of supporting a banned terror group. Hundreds of his supporters cheered outside as he arrived. He's alleged to have displayed a Hezbollah flag during a gig last November. His defence team argued the case should be thrown out, claiming a technical error in how the charge was brought against him. The band has branded the prosecution as calculated political decision. Israel is calling up 60,000 reservists for a planned ground assault to seize and occupy all of Gaza City. The operation, involving 5 army divisions, has been approved by the Israeli Defence Minister Israel Katz, with orders for mass evacuations of civilians expected in the coming weeks. European leaders, though, are warning the move, they say, can only lead to disaster, while the Red Cross says Gaza's more than 2 million people already face a catastrophic humanitarian crisis. The IDF says the next phase of Operation Gideon's Chariots aims to dismantle Hamas and free the remaining hostages, though only 20 are thought to still be alive. A Sanex shower gel advert has been banned for reinforcing racial stereotypes. The TV ad showed black skin as cracked and itchy, while cutting to a white woman with smooth and problem-free skin. Watchdogs ruled the imagery implied that white skin was superior, upholding 2 complaints. Sanex owner Colgate-Palmolive said the ad was meant to show the product working across different skin types and stressed its commitment to diversity. And in the sport, Liverpool's Mohamed Salah has made history, winning a record third PFA Men's Player of the Year award. The 33-year-old scored 29 goals and 18 assists as the Reds powered to the Premier League title. On the women's side, Arsenal's Mariona Caldenti took the honour, netting 19 goals in her first season, including 8 on the Gunners' run to the Champions League glory against former club Barcelona. Congratulations to them both. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Next, though, let's take a look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Well, the pound will buy you $1.3482 and €1.1571. The price of gold this hour is £2,476 and 50 pence per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,247 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thank you, Sam. Now, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has been told to hold an emergency cabinet meeting on the migrant crisis enveloping the party and the nation after Epping Council sensationally defeated the Home Office yesterday. Let's go live now to Epping and speak to GB News' Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, you're at the scene of the victory, the scene of the crime, as it were. Epping yesterday, the national epicentre. Today, the ripples go nationwide. A chain reaction seems to be in place. I spoke to 2 councillors today already who want to be the next Epping. I'm joined by Sarah Pochin. She wants a bit more of the same. This could be a nightmare for the government.
I think there's no doubt it could be very problematic for the government, and that's why I think people here in Epping, although they are clearly delighted still by the announcement, the ruling that was handed down at the High Court just yesterday afternoon, there is a realisation that the Home Office probably won't take this lying down, that they will try to move for some kind of appeal process in the coming days. How successful that will be, we don't know, but it's too important really for the Home Office, because they have 32,000 migrants in migrant hotels right across the country. So if we do see a process where increasing numbers of councils follow the lead of Epping Forest District Council and go to the High Court, then it could be very, very tricky for the Home Office trying to find other accommodation for hundreds, potentially thousands of migrants at a time, let's face it, when finding accommodation is difficult enough anyway. 50,000 plus asylum seekers are now in the system, having entered the country illegally from France just since Sir Keir Starmer came to office. Add that to the other asylum seekers who are still waiting for a decision on their asylum process. And I think the protests here, although there's not one today, they're likely to continue until the last of the asylum seekers here, Martin, have gone. And people will continue to turn up, and they have told us they will continue to hold peaceful protests, but they will wear the symbols of this country, the flags, for instance. We've heard a lot again today about flag wars, but people that I've been speaking to say that it's very important because it goes to the heart of why they're protesting. It's about the disintegration of the social fabric of their communities. They are patriotic. They see uncontrolled mass migration and illegal migration in the manifestation of the small boats crisis as extremely important. And in fact, just take a look before we hand you back at the side of the hotel there, the drain pipe of the hotel. Some cheeky chappie has put a St George's flag on the drain pipe there, and indeed on the lampposts all the way down this road, Martin, you'll find other flags flying patriotically, they say, not out of an attempt to intimidate anyone.
Mark White, a nice little smile at the end of that story, and I know it wasn't you. You're way too professional and you're way too Scottish to have ever done that. But Mark White, thank you.
Martin.
Mark White, superb as ever. Thank you for joining us live from the ground in Epping. Now back to the studio now. New research from Stand for Our Sovereignty shows that 90% of councils have gained asylum seekers since Sir Keir Starmer swept into power last July. Now Crawley tops the list, with the local authority having now to support an extra 972 migrants since the general election last year. In fact, this is only 9 months' worth of data. It's sure to be higher. And that's more than double the number inherited from before Sir Keir. That's amounting to an increase of an incredible 128.4% since he became the Prime Minister. Well, to discuss this, I'm now joined in the studio by GB News political correspondent Catherine Forster, GB News' senior political commentator Nigel Nelson, and the Reform UK MP for Runcorn and Helsby, Sarah Pogin. Sarah Pogin, let's start with you. We've seen now, let's start with the asylum hotel backlash, the Home Office being spectacularly defeated yesterday. What's your take on where this will go next? And do you expect the government to appeal against this decision?
I absolutely do expect that they will appeal. So I think it's excellent news for today, but I think it's a case of watch this space, and let's hope that, you know, when it does go to appeal, that this ruling stands, because it clearly is a definitive ruling if it does fall at appeal. And other local authorities will be able to use this and close their asylum hotels. But the big question then is, of course, where do the occupants of those hotels get dispersed? And I can tell you from my own experience in Runcorn and Helsby, because my asylum hotel has been closed, the Daubney Hotel, they get dispersed into the community, into HMOs, houses of multiple occupancy.
And so at that point, it's not a problem solved, it's a problem moved.
It's a problem moved, and it's worsened, because once in the HMOs, once in the communities, they are lost to the authorities. They are also disrupting local people's lives. They are using, they're clearly taking up housing places. So in my constituency, we have between 850 and 900 asylum seekers that we know about taking up housing places. That I should clarify, that's actually in Halton as a whole. Runcorn is part of Halton. I have up to 90, we think, houses of multiple occupancy that they're living in. And so not only is it taking up housing, local people came into my office and tell me they've been moved out of housing to make room for asylum seekers. And then there's the schools, and then there's the GP services. The knock-on effect is enormous.
Let's get to Catherine Forster. I'll come back to you for some more reaction in a moment. Catherine Forster, you raised something in the last hour which really, really blew my mind, and I'd like to repeat it for the benefit of those who perhaps weren't tuned in the last hour, and that is, even if these hotels are closed down, the government may still be on the hook for millions of pounds of bills for years to come.
Well, yes, exactly. Now, the government very keen to say they've brought the use of hotels down from 400 to about 210 now, but still 32,000 asylum seekers in them. And a lot of the contracts that the government has had to sign with these companies to provide this accommodation in hotels have been signed right through to 2029, which is potentially the next election, when Labour have pledged they will have ended the use of asylum hotels by. So unless the Home Office can somehow get out of those contracts, we could well be looking at a situation that taxpayers are basically on the hook twice. First, for asylum hotels that may no longer being used, and also, of course, for putting people up in houses of multiple occupation, as Sarah's just said. Neither of them are good or popular options, and the government are offering long-term contracts to landlords, much more than they can get at the normal rent, and all problems managed and sorted. So it's incredibly difficult, whichever way you cut it.
I just want to refer to a graph that's on your screen now. This is from that report that we've exclusively seen today on GB News from our friends at Stand for Our Sovereignty. The figure on the left there, that is for the percentile increase in the biggest increase constituency in the United Kingdom. That is Crawley, 128.4% increase in the last 9 months alone. Peter Lamb, the Labour MP for that area, by the way, we reached out to him for a comment. Cat's got his tongue. Nothing come back to us yet. Look along there, the average, 12.8% for the UK. Let's go then to Sir Keir Starmer's constituency, his local authority of Camden. a mere 1.28%, I believe. We can get that back on the screen. And look at the biggest loser, if you like, the area where it's gone down the most. It's gone down the most in Westminster. 24% down in Westminster since last year. Sarah Poaching, what's going on here? Quite simply is Labour constituencies who are friendly to the government are willingly taking on shed loads of asylum seekers. Perhaps the electorate now know about that. They might not be quite so happy. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer's not taking his fair share. And Westminster, it's going down. This is the case, clearly, once again, of NIMBYism. No illegals in my backyard.
Absolutely. And look, the North West, currently, according to Home Office figures, March of this year, has currently got 20,400 asylum seekers. So places like Runcorn in my constituency and across the North West are being used as dumping grounds. I know that's a strong term, but it's absolutely the way it is. Because, look, my suggestion is the Lib Dems, you know, the Green Party, look, you take them then, because the North West, with these traditionally Labour constituencies, are absolutely being totally taken for a ride because no one is objecting. Well, now in Runcorn and Helsby, they've got me and I'm objecting, you know, very loudly about it. But the point is, for so long, people have not been standing up and defending the North West that are taking far too many of these asylum seekers.
OK, Nigel Nelson, let's bring you in. You've been waiting very, very patiently. Isn't that a fair point? You know, in areas where clearly the voters never had a say, they voted against this time and time again, all the way back to 2010, by the way. This is multiple failures by successive governments, not just the current regime. Why don't we send them to the areas that seem to be refugees welcome? Shove them over there.
Well, if you can, that's exactly what should happen. I mean, the problem has been local protests. So wherever you put asylum seekers, there is going to be a protest, whether it's hotels. Sarah mentioned social housing is being used by 900 asylum seekers in your constituency. Again, we have the problem about where do you put them, which I think you asked that question too. If not in hotels, they have to go then into housing. If they go into housing, that will deprive people of that housing. So it's an ongoing problem. The North West has been badly hit about this, but so have other places. I come from Kent. We have more unaccompanied asylum seeker children in Kent than in any other county. Reason, other counties will not take them. So the issue is actually getting local authorities to play ball and take their fair share.
Or is it? Because I've got another potential solution. Let's take a look at this, because there have been a lot of protests against housing asylum seekers in hotels over the last few years. Certain politicians have been very outspoken about welcoming refugees onto their patch. Let's take a look. That includes the now Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper. There she is with a sign and reading, "Refugees welcome." How about we send a few coach loads to Pontefract? Let's see how they like it there. Let's move on now to the former Green MP for Brighton, Caroline Lucas. She's even made a homemade heart. Refugees welcome. Well, how about if they're shipped down to Brighton? Let's see how the constituents there like it. Next up, of course, the Mayor of London, Sir Sadiq Khan. Refugees welcome. How about we put a load of them outside City Hall? In actual fact, they are all over London. I've got a couple of asylum hotels where I live. Of course, the omnipresent bleeding heart, Islington North MP Jeremy Corbyn. There he is, refugees welcome. How about we send a load to Islington? How about we put a bunch on Jeremy Corbyn's allotment? Must be room in the shed until, that is, Angela Rayner takes his allotment away from him. And here is Jezza, photographed with his Labour colleagues, Diane Abbott, John McDonnell, the former Chancellor for the Labour Party, Clive Lewis, plus Baroness Chakrabarti, of course, the former head of Liberty, now tucked up nicely in ermine. These people are always the ones telling us refugees are welcome, but they never end up living on their streets. They never end up taking their school places for their kids or affecting their GP's appointment. Sarah Poaching, I want to put it to you, it's always the same. They tell us how to live our life one way, but they don't actually practice what they preach.
What we've got to do, Martin, is to stop the pull factor in this country. These asylum seekers need to be housed in potentially former army bases. It doesn't matter whether they're in barracks or tents or whatever it might be on these former army bases, for example. The ones that are already here, we can't have this pull factor that we have in this country, that you get a hotel room, and you will get a hotel room until 2029. Let's not pretend otherwise. Or you get a house. But not only that, you get clothing and you get money in your pocket and you get driving lessons, and the list that we know so well, don't we, because we talk about it all the time. We have to stop the pull factor. They need to go into very basic accommodation, be deported and be processed.
Nigel Nelson, I thought you had a question for Sarah Poacher.
Yeah, I mean, you were pictured actually welcoming refugees at one point, I think back in 2022. And it seems to me it is right to welcome genuine refugees, which is what I assume you were doing as mayor at the time.
Absolutely. In 2022, I was mayor of Cheshire East. And if you remember, we were, as a country, quite rightly offering help to the Ukrainian refugees. And this country has always stood up when it's needed to and offered help to our neighbours. They are a European country and they're at war. So I have no problem with that whatsoever. That was a totally different scenario.
But it included Syrians too, didn't it?
Well, in the circumstances that I think you're talking about with myself, it was an event to welcome Ukrainian refugees. And a reform government will always stand up for refugees that need genuine help.
But that applies to other people other than Ukrainians. I mean, the Ukrainian scheme has been a remarkable success in this country.
It has.
So indeed was the Syrian scheme. We've also settled Hong Kongers, and we don't hear anything about them at all. So if it comes down to genuine refugees, does it make a difference where they come from, whether it's Ukraine, Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan?
A genuine refugee, no. And that's what we would always, as I say, step up to do. Afghan interpreters, for example, that helped and served alongside our British troops, absolutely should be given refuge in this country. What I do not support in any way are the boatloads, the invasion of illegal immigrants coming across the channel, asylum seekers that are coming here illegally and then claiming asylum. That is not acceptable.
And Catherine Forster, final word to you. You made another excellent point last time, and that is there are governments across Europe that are standing up to this, and they're not even right-wing governments.
Yes, so Denmark being a prime example, have a left-of-centre government. They have been very tough on migration for years now. They've sent out all sorts of "you are not really welcome here" messaging, and currently asylum applications are at a 40-year low. Now, they are within the EU. Denmark is seen as such a liberal country, but you know, other places, I think the government may be looking at using like old student halls that are no longer in use for university students, things like that. But in France and Spain, they have much more basic accommodation. If people think they're going to be put up in a 4-star hotel, you are rewarding people for making that journey. And it sounds like a tiny detail, but it just struck in my head. There was video recently of trays and trays of Pink Lady apples going into one of these hotels. Now, anybody who's ever eaten a Pink Lady apple, Pink Lady apples are 50p each. They are the most expensive. And I think a lot of British people will look at that and think that it is just horrifically unfair.
I think you're absolutely right. Nigel Nelson, Catherine Forster, Sarah Poacher, and of course, Reform MP for Runcorn. Always an absolute pleasure to have you in the studio. Thanks to all of you. Now, earlier on, GB News spoke to the Pensions Minister, Torsten Bell, about the ruling on the Epping Asylum Hotel.
We'll carefully consider the court's judgment, but we inherited a completely broken asylum system, a disgraceful situation. Under the Conservatives, we had up to 400 asylum hotels. We brought those numbers down, and we're working closely with communities to make sure we close all asylum hotels over the course of this Parliament.
Well, there's more coming up on the programme, including Rachel Reeves considers a mansion tax on homes above £1.5 million. But could this be another disguised attack on our old age pensioners? This is GB News, Britain's News Channel. Thank you.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 4:29. You're with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, Rachel Reeves is planning a so-called mansion tax that has been blasted as a poll tax in disguise for pensioners. Now, it could mean that OAPs whose houses have piled on a huge amount of value over the years, well, they would have to pay a huge windfall tax bill if they chose to downsize. Now, the Chancellor's got a £50 billion black hole to fill, but why, once again, should pensioners bear the brunt if they've worked hard their entire lives to own their own houses? Well, I'm joined in the studio by the estate agent and the former chair of the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, Jeremy Leaf. Jeremy, a pleasure to have your esteemed company. So, we've heard mansion taxes before. Vince Cable touted one in 2009, Ed Miliband in 2013. They never came to pass because they're exposed as being cruel, particularly towards pensioners. What do you make of this latest scheme from Rachel Reeves?
Well, it could work if it's set at the right level. But like any measure that's introduced in housing, the most important thing is we do not compromise transactions, people being able to move. That's good for the economy, it's good for growth, good for everything. And also, we try to improve the number of affordable houses and flats available for people. Those are the two main things. And if this does it, then it's no good.
I'll come back to you in a moment while I fix your microphone. Nigel Nelson, let's get to you. A lot of people, we heard yesterday, there could be a progressive annual tax. You pay the value of your house, like an income tax on your house. Of course, the hammer pensioners who are asset rich but cash poor. And this, again, is being seen as another grasp on those who have it. If you've got a number plate and you move, you get taxed by the Labour Party. If you've got a home, you get hammered by the Labour Party. It's another tax on aspiration.
Yeah, I do think that I smell a bit of Treasury plotting behind this as we approach the budget. We're getting an awful lot of speculation about which taxes Rachel Reeves will raise. The real message coming through is she's going to raise some taxes. Her job is there are no good options because she's ruled out income tax, VAT and employee national insurance. They're big taxes, raise a lot of money. She's ruled that out, so she's hitting specific groups. No good options. What she's looking for is the least worst, and this is why these ideas are being floated. Now, whether the mansion tax worked or not, the one area which I find that successive governments have avoided, which I find odd, is revaluing council tax bands. They haven't been changed since they came in 1991, and really it's about time we looked at them again to raise money.
Jeremy Leaf, let's bring you back in now. You were saying that the big issue here is if you choke supply, because people simply wouldn't sell. It would be a nightmare for the property market.
Job mobility, job and social mobility is absolutely paramount. It's absolutely essential that we don't compromise it.
Carry on.
We don't compromise it in any way, and any measure that comes in, we have to make sure that it doesn't do so, and I'm not sure that this doesn't.
And what about this notion that if you happen to buy a property at the right time, a long time ago, and through no fault of your own, it's accrued a huge amount of value, you get hammered if you sell up and you're a pensioner. And you might have to sell, for example, if you need to pay for medical care or go into a care home.
This is absolutely right. And there's another point as well. Those people who are at the tipping point, who may be obliged or feel that they have to sell because they're up to their limit financially, they may be actually forced to move away from an area where they're receiving maybe help and support from family and friends, and that actually adds to the burden on local authorities who have to care for them out of their natural, comfortable environment.
And of course, on paper, it's like, well, we're going to go after the billionaires, the oligarchs, the Saudi Arabians, what's not to like? But of course, whenever you introduce a tax like this, it's a blunderbuss. It drags people in who aren't well off.
Yeah.
And it will, no matter how you dress it up, if you happen to be a pensioner and you bought potentially in the 1970s or before in London or the South East, you're taxed on every single penny of profit since you bought the house. That could be the whole lot at 28%. It could bankrupt pensioners.
Absolutely. It's actually not a bad idea if the rate could be set right. If it's perceived as a straight swap for stamp duty and some of the council tax anomalies that Nigel was referring to, then it may work. But of course, if it's set at a higher level and does introduce even further anomalies and makes it worse for those people on the edges, the more vulnerable, then it's going to be a disaster.
OK, thank you very much for joining us. That is Jeremy Leaf. Superb to have you in the studio. An estate agent and former chair of the Royal Institution of the Chartered Surveyors. Jeremy Leaf, thank you very much. Lots more still to come between now and 5 o'clock, including York City Council used a cherry picker this morning to take down England and Union flags. The latest council to declare war on our national flags. What on earth is going on up in York? But first, here's your headlines, and it's Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you from the newsroom just after 4:30. The top story, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp is calling for guarantees that migrants won't simply be moved from hotels into apartments. It's after a High Court ruling ordered the Bell Hotel in Essex to stop housing them by September. Councils across England are now seeking legal advice to do the same. Nigel Farage says 12 reform-led councils could follow suit, while the Prime Minister is facing calls for an emergency cabinet meeting on deportations. Breaking this hour, a former priest has been found guilty of 17 indecent assaults against 9 women dating back to his time leading an evangelical movement in Sheffield. Chris Brain showed no emotion as the verdicts were delivered, with jurors still considering further charges, including 1 count of rape. UK inflation has risen faster than expected, now up to 3.8%. Transport costs soared, with airfares spiking 30% month on month. That's the largest jump since 2001. Rapper Liam Ohana has appeared in court today accused of supporting Hezbollah. Hundreds of supporters cheered him today, while his defence called for the case to be thrown out over a technical error. The group says the charges are a calculated political decision. The UK has added 8 new names to its Russia sanctions list, targeting crypto networks used to bypass restrictions. Russia, though, has retaliated with counter-sanctions on British media, NGOs and consultancies. And the Royal Mint is sending one last royal wave. 23 million Queen Elizabeth £1 coins are now entering circulation. The final batch of coins bearing Her Majesty's face is hitting wallets, purses and piggy banks nationwide. a little piece of history you can actually spend. That's the news for now. I'll be back with you at 5.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello again, very good day to you. This is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots more fine weather to come as we go through the rest of this week, but at the moment there's still a bit of a breeze across eastern parts and could be a bit chilly for some of us tonight. Currently, yes, there is a weak cold front lying across parts of the southwest, but that's not brought a huge amount of rain. It's just brought some thicker cloud, perhaps across parts of Devon and Cornwall, and will continue to do so for a little while yet. Otherwise, a fine picture to end the day for most of us, and staying dry with some clear skies for many as we go overnight as well. A few showers possible for Orkney and Shetland, and perhaps towards the far coastal parts of East Anglia and Kent as well. Where we get those clear skies towards the west could turn a little chilly, whilst towns and cities are generally going to hold up in double figures. Some rural spots could drop to low single figures. So a bit of a fresh, chilly start tomorrow for many of us. Across parts of southeastern England, a bit more cloud here, still a few coastal showers perhaps, but across the rest of England and Wales, it's looking largely fine to start. Some decent sunshine, quite bright across parts of Northern Ireland. Some thicker cloud across central southern Scotland, perhaps bringing a few spots of rain, but further north, away from the Northern Isles where there could still be a few showers around, it's looking like a fine start to the day. Now we are going to see a bit more cloud bubbling up perhaps as we go through the morning, but this should actually start to break up again as we go into the afternoon. So across central eastern parts, there should be some brighter spells, but perhaps the best of the sunshine towards the southwest and also across northern, northwestern parts of Scotland. In the sunshine, feeling pretty warm with temperatures in the low 20s, but towards those North Sea coastal parts, still a bit more of a breeze, and if you get that, that's going to make it feel fresher, and temperatures will be that little bit lower here as well. Staying fine for many as we go through the end of the day tomorrow, and it's looking fine as we go through Friday and much of the weekend. Yes, there will be a few showers around, but most of us will avoid these, and actually temperatures are going to climb up a little.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. In Glynneath, roadworks on the A465 eastbound have closed the onslip with diversions. In Durham, a collision on the A19 northbound between the A182 Merton and the A1018 leaves one lane open. Staffordshire's M6 northbound between junctions 15 and 16 experiences heavy congestion, causing over 2.5-hour delays. An accident in Derbyshire on the M1 northbound at junction 25 results in one-lane closure, causing a 20-minute delay. In Cambridgeshire, a broken down vehicle causes lane closures on the A428 eastbound between the A1 and A1198. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. Time's 4:39. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, flag wars have erupted across London and the nation after councils ordered the ripping down of Union Jack flags. But now York City Council, which has had a Labour majority administration since 2023, well, it's now promised to keep up the vast majority of flags, but it's taken some down from near an event. Confused? Well, let's try and make sense of it. I'm joined now by Simon Morrell, the Conservative councillor for Frankly Great Park Ward in Birmingham. Simon, welcome to the show. So, of course, this nonsense started in Birmingham. You came on before and pointed out the fact that the area just simply seems to have a huge issue with the Union flag, and now this nonsense has spread nationwide.
Thanks, Martin. It's great to be back. I wouldn't say it's the area. I think here in South Birmingham, we're incredibly proud. And actually, I think we've started not just a national movement, but if you come around here now, almost every flagpole is lit up. And I was quite delighted to see Professor Matt Goodwin actually share Edgewood Road just round the corner from my mum's. To see that go global is quite proud. And I don't think I've been this proud since, 3 years ago when we gathered up the beacon at Lickey Hills to do a vigil for Queen Elizabeth II. So in South Birmingham, we're incredibly proud. I think it's just people in the inner cities, in particular the Labour Council, that seem to not like the Union flag.
Why not? What's that problem with the flag? I want to try and get to the bottom of this. We discuss it all the time. What secret shame is there, or even now public shame, that the left have in the Union flag and the St George's flag?
Well, I just think that some people from the Labour movement on the left, I don't think they understand the significance of the Union flag, and I think a lot of them often resort to projection. We've got a local community group on Facebook for the Rednall community group, and even yesterday there was a bunch of left-wingers in the community using false aliases, anonymous aliases, to basically slag off white working class communities across B45, not realising that what you're doing there is projection. You're being prejudiced to an entire community of people just for celebrating a flag. And what I would say to these people, actually, Martin, is I mentioned about VJ Day and how we should use that as an amnesty to celebrate the end of the Second World War. I went to a VJ Day event on Friday, and there was a mixed race lad at the back who looked quite timid and worried to be there. And I wasn't having any of that. So I went straight over and shook his hand and made him feel inclusive. There were veterans there. One wife of a veteran made him feel really great. And after the 2-minute silence, all the veterans were talking to him. And I went up to him at the end of the show and I shook his hand, and he gave me that non-verbal communication, look in the eye, to say thank you for making him feel inclusive. And on the drive home, Martin, I felt really sorry. I felt really bad, actually, because that shouldn't have to happen. People of all sorts of ethnic backgrounds should not feel intimidated to celebrate our Union flag. And the reason that is happening isn't because of some far right. Yes, there are some knuckle draggers out there, no one's disputing that. But I think the reason, actually, is because the left in this country have consistently pushed a narrative that that flag is not for everybody. And I think it's about time we reclaim that narrative and say, no, it is everybody's flag.
Simon Morrow, I think you're exactly right. Thank you very much for joining us as the Conservative counsel for frankly great Park Ward in Birmingham. Always pleased to have your company. Let's get back to studio. Nigel Nelson, I want to talk to you about Sir Keir Starmer put a message out yesterday saying he's a proud patriot and he's proud and supports anybody who flies the St George's flag. A lot of people say don't believe him. And more to the point, they don't believe the Labour council that seem to be consistently ripping these flags down. I'll be blunt with you. What's the problem with the Labour Party and the Union flag and the St George's flag?
Well, firstly, there isn't a problem. The only time
there is. They're getting ripped down.
The only time it becomes a problem is if it's going to be provocative. So it probably shouldn't be up. For instance, those flags near the Asylum Hotel.
Why not?
Because
those people are staying at British taxpayers' expense. They should be flying the flag themselves.
Clearly, those flags are intended to be provocative. There is nothing.
In what way?
Because the St George's flag is not the flag of the United Kingdom. It's not a Union Jack.
It's the flag of England where those hotels are.
I appreciate that, but it is.
Why is it provocative?
It is provocative because the people who wrap themselves in that flag are the ones who are demonstrating outside against the people who are inside that hotel. Therefore, the flag becomes provocative. The Union Jack would be fine. Other countries fly their flags.
No, you don't want to get away with that.
OK.
What is the difference between the St George's flag, which you just said is provocative, and the Union flag, which you say isn't?
The Union flag is the national flag. It's the national flag of the United Kingdom. It's about unity. It's about the nations of the United Kingdom being united.
Would you say the same thing? Hang on a minute.
Okay.
Would you say the same thing to a Scottish person? If they wrap themselves in a Scottish flag, would you have a problem with that? You wouldn't. It's only the English flag you've got a problem with. Why?
It depends how it's used. If the English flag is actually out there supporting
England, why is the English flag provocative? Answer the question.
If it's being used for a political purpose, it is provocative. If it is being used on a football terrace at an international game, it is not. It is supporting England as a team. Do you see the difference?
No. I think you're completely and utterly deluded, and I think you're totally and utterly out of touch with people who have a reasonable cause for concern. They can go to a hotel.
Why don't they use the Union Jack? Why don't they use the Union Jack?
It's their free country. Have you ever said that to anybody who flies a Palestine flag? No. Have you ever said that to anybody who flies a Scottish flag? No. You've only got a problem with the St George's flag. It's the same as everybody on the left, and I don't understand it.
The same thing applies to the Palestinian flag if it's used in a provocative way. So any flag can be used in a provocative way. They are symbols of nations, and so the ultimate insult to a nation is to burn the flag.
And you singularly singled out the St George's flag. I find that astonishing.
Well, it is used in a provocative way.
We're going to have to move on. We're going to pick this up in the next hour, mate. You don't want to go away with that easy. Let's quickly move on. Birmingham City Council defended its removal of flags by saying staff have been instructed to remove all attachments from lampposts ahead of an upgrade to energy-efficient LED street lighting. Nathan searched some holiday sun. Here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
For anyone heading further afield for a break over the next few days, it is going to be hot for southern parts of Spain, thundery through central Mediterranean and fairly breezy through Greece, especially around the islands, but less hot here compared with last week. Some hot sunshine in the south of Italy. Very thundery through central and northern Italy, Croatia, the Alps as well. Plenty of fine weather for Iberia, staying breezy through the Canaries, and it stays similar across central Med through the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
To infinity and beyond. A Scottish space company, Skyrora, is celebrating a huge milestone after it was granted a launch operator licence for one of its rockets.
Well, the licence enables the company to launch from Saxavord, which is at a real place. It's the UK's licensed vertical launch port. It's in the northernmost point of the Shetlands.
But the search is still on for a launch pad to blast off from, with none available this year.
OK. Joining us is the head of government affairs at Skyrora, Alan Thompson. So, Alan, wait a minute now. So you've got a port, but you don't have a launch pad. Is that it?
Got a licence, and there is a designated licence spaceport, but yeah, there is no premises at this precise moment in time.
So how would you get that, mate?
We could, well, in theory, the launch vehicle that we're looking to launch, we have actually demonstrated it can be launched from a farmer's field. So we theoretically don't really need a launch pad. And for that reason, we are trying to see if there is an opportunity to negotiate with the people at Saxavord to allow us a corner of their farmer's field to allow us to undertake this launch.
Do you know, wait, I always see, Alan, programmes and read news reports about farmers having to utilise their land in other ways to make it pay.
This is the way forward.
This could be the thing.
Well, I believe the Shetland Spaceport does actually have sheep within the perimeter fence. And yeah, it's something that we've come across a lot of engaging with nature.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 5 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the top 10 funeral songs in the UK have been released. And the 5 songs making the top 5 are Time to Say Goodbye by Andrea Bocelli and Sarah Brightman. Number 2, My Way, Frank Sinatra. Number 3, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Eva Cassidy. Number 4, You'll Never Walk Alone, Liverpool Football Club. Number 5, The Best, Tina Turner. Well, here's a taster of what I would have. living free. That would be my funeral song, Highway to Hell by AC/DC. Why not send them out with a laugh on the face as they go to the boozer for a few sandwiches? Let's speak now with the funeral director, Adam Health. Adam, welcome to the show. The top 10 funeral songs, not surprising. We've got some old classics there. But do people ever play something offbeat and funny like that?
My name's Adam Heath, not Health. Health is not necessarily appropriate in my trade. There you go. Appropriate ones, inappropriate ones. So the list I've seen there is quite interesting and kind of reflects what I do. I'm not sure that nationally You'll Never Walk Alone by Liverpool FC is awfully common. I'm slightly doubt that, but the rest of them, but very much so. I sort of looked through a few of our less than usual ones, if I can put it like that. Yeah. Soul Limbo, so that's the Test match special theme. I quite like that one. It's quite catchy, and it's quite good to have a sort of a mood setting at a funeral. So you start with something quite solemn because it can be, clearly an unhappy moment as somebody walks into the crematorium or the cemetery chapel. And then maybe something a bit more reflective during the service, which is quite nice. And then maybe something a bit cheery as they leave the chapel. So Soul Limbo, quite popular. We did Disco Inferno a couple of times, if you can picture the words to that. Who Let the Dogs Out? And everybody barked along. Can I say this? No. We had recently was a really less than usual one. Was We're Having a Gangbang. I kid you not. None of this is untrue.
Oh my God. Oh my God! You said funeral directors have got no sense of humour.
We don't choose the songs. No, that's not what we do. We do as we're told as funeral directors, always.
Adam Heath, best of health to you. We have to leave it there. Absolutely magnificent. Oh, Nigel Nelson. I don't know what to say after that. He's stolen the whole show. We've got to ask you, what will follow that?
I must ask him to actually arrange my funeral when it comes, I think. I'd like him as a funeral director.
What would be your song, mate?
I think that the Queen's Another One Bites the Dust. I think it would actually be suitable. You could have the Clash's Should I Stay or Should I Go? Yeah. Or, which I quite like, the jingle at the end of a computer, when you shut down a computer to say that's it.
Yeah. I think to troll you, I'd make sure they played Rule Britannia. Thank you very much. Play more's coming for the next hour, including Keir Starmer might have to hold an emergency cabinet meeting on the migrant crisis. That's next with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, very good day to you. This is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots more fine weather to come as we go through the rest of this week, but at the moment there's still a bit of a breeze across eastern parts and could be a bit chilly for some of us tonight. Currently, yes, there is a weak cold front lying across parts of the southwest, but that's not brought a huge amount of rain. It's just brought some thicker cloud, perhaps across parts of Devon and Cornwall, and will continue to do so for a little while yet. Otherwise, a fine picture to end the day for most of us, and staying dry with some clear skies for many as we go overnight as well. A few showers possible for Orkney and Shetland, and perhaps towards the far coastal parts of East Anglia and Kent as well. Where we get those clear skies towards the west could turn a little chilly, whilst towns and cities are generally going to hold up in double figures. Some rural spots could drop to low single figures. So a bit of a fresh, chilly start tomorrow for many of us. Across parts of southeastern England, a bit more cloud here, still a few coastal showers perhaps, but across the rest of England and Wales, it's looking largely fine to start. Some decent sunshine, quite bright across parts of Northern Ireland. Some thicker cloud across central southern Scotland, perhaps bringing a few spots of rain, but further north, away from the Northern Isles, where there could still be a few showers around, it's looking like a fine start to the day. Now, we are going to see a bit more cloud bubbling up, perhaps as we go through the morning, but this should actually start to break up again as we go into the afternoon. So across central eastern parts, there should be some brighter spells, but perhaps the best of the sunshine towards the southwest and also across northern, northwestern parts of Scotland. In the sunshine, feeling pretty warm with temperatures in the low 20s, but towards those North Sea coastal parts, still a bit more of a breeze, and if you get that, that's going to make it feel fresher, and temperatures will be that little bit lower here as well. Staying fine for many as we go through the end of the day tomorrow, and it's looking fine as we go through Friday and much of the weekend. Yes, there will be a few showers around, but most of us will avoid these, and actually temperatures are going to climb up a little.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The M90 southbound at Junction 3 has restrictions due to a broken down vehicle. Drivers should approach with caution. In Glynneath, the A465 eastbound remains affected by planned maintenance, with the on-slip closed and diversions in place. On the M6 northbound between junctions 15 and 16 in Staffordshire, expect 2 hours of congestion. Delays of 30 minutes are reported on the M1 northbound at junction 25 in Derbyshire due to an accident with one lane closed. And on the trains, both Avanti West Coast and Northern are experiencing major disruptions in the Wigan northwestern area. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
What does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
Yes, that is fantastic.
You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness.
You've won £54,321.
Please don't joke. This would change my life.
Oh, thank you so much. I was gobsmacked. Thank you, GB News.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You really could be our next big winner. Head over to gbnews.com/win now to find out how and get your entry for the Great British Giveaway. Great prizes, even greater wins.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
A very, very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. On today's show, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has been told to hold an emergency cabinet meeting on the migrant crisis after Epping Council sensationally defeated the Home Office yesterday. On today's show, we're joined by two councillors and an MP, all of whom are saying, we want to be the next Epping. And a GB News viewer has sent us an exclusive shocking pictures of a children's classroom poster that they claim justifies jihad. On today's show, I'll ask a Muslim scholar, are our children being brainwashed into accepting Islamic extremism in our classrooms? And a pub landlord was ordered to remove Union flags from outside his boozer after complaints from locals and the council. But as the flags had "Stop the Boats" written on them, did the brewery have a point? Was his freedom of speech flattened, or was it simply a flag too far? That's all coming in your next hour. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. I have to apologise for some fruity language used by a funeral director, of all people, in the previous hour. It made us laugh, but it may have offended some of you at home. He was dying to tell the joke. Sorry, I'll stop there. On a serious point, the Epping asylum scandal, the crisis is now sweeping the nation. I've already had a councillor from Oxbourne in the studio. I'm joined by a councillor from the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead next. They're all saying Epping was just the beginning. This could now sweep across the nation, causing a chain reaction. The Home Office, the Prime Minister, the entire establishment simply cannot stop. We've also got an incredible exclusive of a poster displayed to 11-year-olds in a British school, which they say justifies jihad. It kind of downplays the impact of jihad in British classrooms. Are our kids being brainwashed? Loads to come in the following hour. Get into the usual ways. GBNews.com/your say is the way to do so. But now it's time for your headlines, and here's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and good evening to you. Just after 5 o'clock. Well, the top story tonight, more asylum hotels could soon face legal challenges after a landmark High Court ruling in Essex. Epping Forest Council won an injunction to block migrants being housed at the Bell Hotel, arguing it had become a public safety risk and breached planning rules. Asylum seekers must now leave that site by the 12th of September. And other councils are now weighing up similar action, including Conservative-run Broxbourne and all 12 Reform UK authorities. Ministers admit the case could have a major impact on housing for more than 32,000 asylum seekers currently in hotels across the UK. The Home Office says it remains committed to ending the use of hotels by the end of this Parliament. Well, the Conservatives' Chris Philp is calling on the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper to guarantee that asylum seekers won't simply be moved from those hotels into apartments.
Well, the use of asylum hotels dropped considerably in the last 2 years of the last government. Illegal channel crossings went down by a third during our last full year in office. But what we've seen since the election is a record ever number of illegal immigrants cross the channel because Labour have lost control of our borders. Many councils, including Conservative councils, will be challenging the use of asylum hotels. Of course, it was a Conservative council, Epping, which successfully challenged the government because people don't want these hotels in the middle of their communities. But let's not forget, the reason these hotels are there in the first place is because this Labour government has lost control of our borders.
A former priest who once led a powerful evangelical movement has been exposed as a sexual predator. 68-year-old Christopher Brain, head of the 9 o'clock service in Sheffield, was today found guilty of 17 counts of indecent assault against 9 women in the 1980s and 90s. Jurors heard Brain turn the church group into a cult, surrounding himself with young women he groomed and abused under the guise of spiritual care. He showed no emotion when the verdicts were read out today. The jury is still considering further charges, including one of rape. UK inflation has risen higher than expected, up to 3.8% in July from 3.6% in June. The ONS says transport costs were the biggest driver, with airfares surging more than 30%. That's the sharpest monthly rise since records began. Treasury Minister Torsten Bell says the government, though, will keep inflation under control while supporting households with the cost of living.
Price rises are disappointing for everybody. We've seen energy prices come down in July, but they're still too high. That's why it's so important that we keep easing the cost of living, keep acting on that. That's why we're raising the minimum wage, it's why we're capping bus fares, it's why we're extending free school meals, and it's why the stability that's allowed 5 interest rate cuts since the election is so important.
An update on news in the Middle East, and Israel is calling up 60,000 reservists for a planned ground assault to seize and occupy all of Gaza City. The operation, involving 5 army divisions, has been approved by the Israeli Defense Minister, with orders for massive evacuations of civilians expected in the coming weeks. European leaders, though, are warning the move, they say, can only lead to disaster, while the Red Cross says Gaza's population already faces a catastrophic humanitarian crisis. The IDF says the next phase of their operation aims to dismantle Hamas and free the remaining hostages, though only 20 are thought to still be alive. A Sanax shower gel advert has been banned for reinforcing racial stereotypes. The TV ad showed black skin as cracked and itchy before cutting to a white woman with smooth and problem-free skin. Watchdogs ruled the imagery implied that white skin was superior, upholding 2 complaints. Sanax owner Colgate-Palmolive has said the ad, though, was meant to show the product works across different skin types and stressed its commitment to diversity. And sport, well, Liverpool's Mohamed Salah has made history, winning a record 3rd PFA Men's Player of the Year award. The 33-year-old scored 29 goals and 18 assists as the Reds powered to the Premier League title. And on the women's side, Arsenal's Mariona Caldente took the honour too, netting 19 goals in her first season, including 8 on the Gunners' run to the Champions League glory against her former club, Barcelona. That's the news on GB News. More from me in half an hour. Next, though, one last look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And the pound can buy you $1.3482 and €1.1571 euros. The price of gold is £2,476, 50 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,247 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thank you, Sam. Now, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has been told to hold an emergency cabinet meeting on the migrant crisis after Epping Council sensationally yesterday defeated the Home Office. Well, GB News' Homeland Security editor Mark White has been in Epping today, and here he is on what he had to say about the situation from there, live on the ground.
Well, here in Epping today, there is still understandable delight from many in the community at that ruling handed down by the High Court yesterday. But there's also sober realisation that the Home Office is unlikely to take this lying down, that in the coming days there may well be some kind of a legal appeal lodged by the Home Office against that injunction, which means that the migrants here at this hotel will have to vacate the premises within the next 23 days. For the Home Office, of course, it is too important an issue just to accept. There are 32,000 asylum seekers in hotels right across the country, and already we're seeing moves by one council in Hertfordshire to mount a similar injunction, and also Nigel Farage telling his 10 local authorities that are under reform control to look at asylum seeker hotels in their local authority areas with a view to doing likewise. So there could be a raft of similar applications in the courts in the coming weeks, and that could be a real headache going forward for the Home Office, and that's why we could see some form of legal action from Marsham Street in the coming days. It's 23 days from now that we'll see the last of these asylum seekers out of this hotel. They'll have to be accommodated elsewhere, either in another asylum seeker hotel or in a house of multiple occupations. So there are those that say, although it might be a relief for people here in Epping, it's not really an end to the issue. It's just simply trying to move about the problem.
There we go. So we said yesterday when that story broke, was this really a problem solved, or will it be a problem moved? And more to the point, where are these asylum seekers being moved too. Well, we've got some astonishing news research from our friends at Stand for Our Sovereignty, exclusively shown to GB News, and it shows that 90% of councils have gained asylum seekers since Sir Keir Starmer swept into power last July. Now, Crawley tops the list, with the local authority having to support an extra 972 migrants since the general election last year. Now, that's only for 9 months, and it could be far, far higher. Now, that is more than double the number inherited from before Sir Keir. That's amounting to an incredible 128.4% increase since the Prime Minister came into power. They've been shoved all around the country, and a lot of councillors are saying enough is enough, and a lot of them are saying they want to be the next Epping. Well, I'm joined in the studio to discuss this by GB News' political correspondent, Catherine Forster, GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson, and also the Conservative leader on Windsor and Maidenhead Borough Council, and that is Sally Conneran. Sally, welcome to the studio. If I may, I'm going to start with you. A lot of councils, pleasure. A lot of councils around the country are seeing what Epping did. They're feeling inspired. They're feeling motivated. I understand in the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead, you want a bit more of the same.
I think we are inspired, and it is good news, but it does not go far enough. Like you said earlier, it's a problem moved, it's not a problem solved. Moving them into apartments away from the hotel, that's great for the people living around the hotel, but it almost hides the problem in multiple areas. And it's still unsafe for residents, it's still unsafe for our communities. And these people, let's face what they are, illegal economic migrants, are in our communities, and people are less safe. Our government should be keeping our communities safe. They're actively making them unsafe.
And you mentioned Datchet. Of course, that's nearby, right? Datchet, I know the area, picturesque place by the Thames, beautiful village, suddenly found itself having one of these hotels in, and that was successfully closed. But do you know where those individuals ever ended up?
As far as I know, probably moved around. It was a successful, very successful movement by Jack Rankin, our MP in Windsor, to get them removed out of that hotel, and that is without legal proceedings. So as far as I'm concerned, this legal movement is great, but it shouldn't even be the case. They should not be put in these hotels. They shouldn't be being put in communities. And legal things shouldn't even need to come into it. It just shouldn't be happening. And the legal results are positive, but they don't go far enough.
What would you like to see happen then?
I'd like them to be arrested, detained and deported. Detained somewhere, government buildings that can be reused. These people, if it's illegal, should be put somewhere where the communities are safe. And as it stands, being out and about in the community, as illegal economic migrants, our communities, our women in particular, are not safe.
So you're saying that they should be arrested upon first arrival at Dover?
I think so. I want to go that far.
And you put them into containment camps. Of course, Reform have said that. I think Kemi Badenoch also echoed the point.
This isn't a heartless situation. This is, you look at Ukraine and people coming from conflict zones, women and children, open our arms to them, look after them, no question. This is not the same situation. This is people, economic migrants, coming to this country, making us unsafe and staying here indefinitely. For what reason? To what end?
And when you speak to your constituents in your area, Sally Conneran, what kind of things are they telling you about their fears, their reservations about having asylum seekers in your area?
I think that word exactly, fear. I know people who go for runs. I go for a run most days around my town. If there's a hotel down the road, a nice hotel, I've moved into that area and I expect that hotel to be a hotel. Who gets to just change that use to make it full of people who make me feel unsafe on my run, make my children feel unsafe on their walk to school? And that's the thing, people have fear. With fear comes civil unrest. Fear comes intimidation against individuals. We're not going against these individuals, we're going against the process. But the result of this process is going to be civil unrest, which we are seeing to a degree already.
Like, nobody wants any of that business to be happening. That's the thing. Nobody wants to see riots like we had last year, but people are feeling increasingly ignored. But that's now changed with Epping, potentially.
Yeah, it's out there now.
Do you think that's the same legal template you can follow now? The Home Office simply didn't follow the correct procedure. Are you going to do the same thing in your area?
I hope we're obviously not leading the council, so I hope that it is followed through in our council. Of course,
who is leading the council, and what do they want?
It's the Liberal Democrats, and we have heard very little from them on this. It's only today that I've put it out there that I want a response from them as to what the exact situation is in Maidenhead and what their plan is going forward. So we can only wait to hear, but I am hopeful that they will have the same opinion as us. They want their residents to feel safe. If you want your residents to feel safe, you want these people gone.
OK, thank you very much. Now, please stick with us. We'll get a reaction to this next comment, because earlier on we broke that story about where the asylum seekers are being placed since the Labour Party got into power, and the top area by a country mile was Crawley. 128.4% increase since the general election, 972 extra asylum seekers in 9 months. It's a real outlier. It's an astonishing number. To put that in perspective, Crawley was 128% increase. In second place, John McDonnell's constituency, Hillingdon, 33%. So Crawley is a massive, massive outlier. We contacted the Labour Party MP for Crawley, Peter Lamb, for comment, and we've just got it back. It's astonishing. Let's read it out. Peter Lamb blames the Conservatives for Crawley having to support an extra 972 migrants since Keir Starmer came into power. Here's what he told us. He says the growth of migrants in local hotels since the general election stems from the Ministry of Defence's decision to resume using the Aurora Hotel in the wake of the Conservatives' data breach for relocating Afghans who supported the British Armed Forces and the Foreign Office in Afghanistan. And he continued, while I believe in the principle behind the relocation scheme, I made it clear to the responsible minister that I opposed the renewed use of the hotel. The High Court must serve as a wake-up call. Just to repeat that astonishing statement, I think it is. Crawley has had the biggest percentile increase of any constituency in the land at 128.4%. Almost 1,000 asylum seekers sent into Crawley. The Labour Party MP for the area, Peter Lamb, is blaming the Conservatives. Just to repeat that, he said the growth in migrants in local hotels since the general election stems from the MOD's decision to resume using the Aurora Hotel in the wake of the Conservatives' data breach for relocating Afghans who supported the British Armed Forces and the Foreign Office in Afghanistan. And while I believe in the principle behind the relocation scheme, I made it clear to the responsible minister that I opposed the renewed use of the hotel. The High Court must serve as a wake-up call. Catherine Forster, I'm going to come to you on that. When will the Labour Party stop blaming the Tories for what's going on? I mean, is there any merit in the notion that the Conservatives made that decision on the relocation of Afghans and they've been passed on to Crawley via a Labour Prime Minister, and it's still the Tories' fault?
Well, look, the Tories in opposition are busy blaming Labour, saying they've lost control of our borders. That clearly started under 14 years of Conservative rule. I think in this case, I mean, I don't have access to the information of where these Afghan people were put, because of course it was a spectacular mess up that was so secret that the press were for many months gagged on talking about it. But it would seem clearly that local MP feels that many of them were dumped in his constituency against his will. But I think more broadly it just speaks to the sort of sense of dysfunction and the fact that whoever is in charge, people feel that they are being let down because, you know, the duty of government, the first duty is the safety of its citizens. The Brexit vote was partly take back control, including of our borders, and we very visibly do not have that control.
Nigel Nelson, I say this phrase often on this programme, I want to say it again, the lunatics have taken over the asylum system. Nobody knows who's in control. Nobody knows whose hand is on the steering wheel. Who's responsible? We've got 1,000 people being put into Crawley. Clearly, Peter Lamb, the MP, is identifying them as predominantly or mostly or entirely Afghans. He's saying specifically this is the relocation scheme enacted by the Conservatives. He's basically saying he didn't want it to happen. So who's in charge? What's the point of an MP? What's the point of a Prime Minister? What's the point of any of them?
Well, I mean,
if they can't stop something happening that the public don't want.
The MP is obviously defending his local constituents, which I understand, but this is the problem overall. The moment you put asylum seekers in a certain place, the people who live there start objecting. In this case, it's the MP. I don't know whether the Afghans whose lives at risk by the data breach ended up there or not.
Well,
if he says they did, well, where else do they go? The question is that everyone so far has been talking about we don't want the asylum seekers on our doorstep. Then what do you do with them? Sally talks about arresting them them, detaining them and deporting them. Well, you can't arrest them because they're not criminals. They haven't done anything wrong. It's not illegal to actually cross the channel in a small boat. Deporting them is fine if they've got a safe country to go to, but a lot of them haven't. And as far as detention goes, you'd end up just leaving them there, which is what happened under the Conservatives. Under the Illegal Migration Act, it didn't get rid of people from the country, but they couldn't leave either, so they're all stuck here.
OK, if you're going to have a pop at Sally, have a pop back.
Illegal migrants, that's where I find it difficult. Arrest, OK, maybe a strong word, but detained whilst waiting to find out what's going to happen to them certainly is the way forward. There's no question about it.
But where are you going to detain them?
In government buildings.
Well, which government buildings?
That's up to the government to work out, but they can't.
Well, exactly. That's the problem, that when you get to the reality of actually being in government and trying to deal with it, it's finding places for them. I mean, you've made the point that you don't want them in the hotels in your area, so they'd be moved into homes. You don't want them there.
No,
and so we go round in circles about where, in fact, they go after that.
Well, we could close the borders, and then there'd be no need for any of this nonsense.
When you say close the borders, what do you mean close the borders? So you just say, right, nobody comes in. Well, you can't close the borders quite clearly, because we have the English Channel between us and France, and people are coming over on small boats. We don't invite them here. They're just coming here. Yeah. How do you physically close the border?
You're right. We don't invite them here, and we can't stop them coming here, and it's getting worse under the Labour government. But I want to get your response, Sally Conran, specifically to what I think is a breathtaking statement there from the Labour Party MP for Crawley, Peter Lamb. Just to repeat, Crawley is an outlier, 128% increase in asylum seekers, all under the Starmer regime, Keir Starmer regime. It's just issued a statement to GB News blaming the Conservatives. I want to get your opinion on that.
Well, firstly, I think you've said it, nearly 130% since the general election. Not before, 130% since. So that's under Keir Starmer. In terms of Peter Lamb, he's saying something now. What's he done so far? In terms of, if he's so against these people being there, what's he done up to this point other than say today, it's the Tories' fault and I don't like it? I'd be really interested to see what he's actively done on the ground with his constituents to resolve this problem.
A lot of people, though, they have been critical of the fact that there was a catastrophic error of data breach by the MOD under the Conservatives, and it left us with a terrible problem that had to be resolved. And I guess his point, to defend him, because I think we need to be balanced, he's saying that they've been dumped upon him because of an error, and he's having to pick up the pieces. And
how's he picking up the pieces? They can't just stay there indefinitely with no plan. What's his plan with Keir Starmer to change this? That problem's in the past, it's done. We can keep blaming the Tories forever if we want to, but it's not going to achieve anything. It's not going to move anything forward. It's time to see what's Keir Starmer going to do now about these 130% increase. How many is it? 1,000 people?
It's 972 in the last 9 months. It's probably way more than that. That's only kind of 3/4 of the data.
So what's the conclusion for Keir Starmer and Peter Lamb? It was the Tories' fault, so we're going to leave them there and our community's going to be unsafe. That's not an answer. That's not a fix. We can't fix it because we're not in now. He's in. He has to fix it.
I want to bring you in on that point. Nigel. I'll come to you, Nigel, please. It's a fair point. You know, you can say this happened under the Conservatives. It did. But for a Labour Party MP to be blaming the Tories, I mean, they're blaming for everything. The £50 billion black hole has doubled. It was 22. It's now 50. You can't blame. How long will this "we blame the Tories for everything" nonsense work?
Well, Maggie Thatcher managed to keep it going, blaming Labour for 13 years, so there's quite a long way to go. No, I agree with you. I mean, there comes a point where the government of the day can't blame the previous government for everything that goes wrong. And Sally's absolutely right. It's now Keir Starmer's problem to deal with the boats coming across. And he is, that we are actually seeing some movement. It won't stop the boats, as we keep saying here. But last week, the National Crime Agency managed to catch 20 inflatables being brought across the Bulgarian border. Each of those inflatables could carry 60 people. The previous month, they managed to foil 25 coming across in a lorry. So there you've got 2,700 migrants who are not going to be making it across the channel in those particular boats.
51,000 under Labour's record number.
The whole thing is you're not going to stop the boat. It is a drop, but we've got to start getting several drops in that ocean to build up. But you're absolutely right. We are not going to stop the boats in the foreseeable future. They're going to still keep coming, and we have to understand that. So therefore, we have to decide then what you do with those people, going back to where Sally really started. We have to decide what we do with those people in the meantime.
Dump them onto constituencies who have no say, no veto, no power to stop it, and then blame the Conservatives. That seems to be the regime. I'm sorry, Nigel Nelson, Catherine Forster, Councillor Sally Conner, and thank you very much for joining me on the show. And lots more coming up on the show today, including we've sent our very own Doogie Beattie to Benidorm for a spot of sunshine and sombreros to find out what makes the Great British Holidaymaker and what they think of the headlines back here at home. Please stay tuned. This is GB News, Britain's News Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 5:28 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, we've sent our very own intrepid Doogie Beattie to Benidorm for a spot of sunshine and sombreros to find out what the Great British Holidaymaker thinks of the headlines back here at home. Doogie Beattie, oh, you're on the beach now. You're making me even more jealous, Doogie Beattie. It looks absolutely sensational. What are the holidaymakers telling you over there?
Well, it is sensational. I mean, the Costa Blanca is Spain's third biggest holiday resort, and Benidorm has been a real surprise to me. I always thought it was that sort of cheap holiday, but of course there's many parts to it. There's 3 parts to it, and one of them, of course, this fabulous beach behind us. The Brits are here in force, and I managed to catch up with a couple from Scotland, and of course I have asked them the questions of what's relevant, and today, what is relevant to you? Is it inflation?
Yeah, we're having 2 teenage boys at home. It is a nightmare. Cost of living, cost of shopping. It's just unmanageable sometimes. Had to save up for a while for the holiday.
Saving up for a while for the holiday for this young man beside us. But of course, England and Northern Ireland get their GCSE results tomorrow. You've already had yours last week from your Scotland. How did you do?
I did all right. I passed like 4 out of 5 of them.
And 3 hires.
Yeah.
We're proud.
Very proud mother, but what are you going to do now?
Serve the army.
You're going to join up?
Yeah.
Well done.
And what does Mommy think of that?
Proud of him for doing it. It's going to be scary, but I'm proud of him.
Well, of course, Scotland, Northern Ireland have a massive heritage joining up and serving the Crown. But, you know, are you looking at a trade inside the army?
No.
Just wants to be a soldier.
A soldier and serve, Martin. Where could you look for better? That really is, it sums Britain up, it sums the UK up. You know, young men like this wanting to join up, have their exam results and have already their future planned for themselves. It won't be too hard for him to get into the army, of course, because recruitment at this minute in time is really struggling. But here in Benidorm, to be going out, his mother has already told me it's the last holiday she's paying for. From now on, it's up to him.
Dougie B, could I ask you, what's that fine young man's name there? What's his name? I want to say thanks to him.
Sorry, sir, what's your name?
Josh.
Josh who?
Miller.
Josh Miller.
Josh Miller. Josh Miller. Martin Daubney says he wants to thank you for having the nerve to join up.
Welcome.
There you go.
Honestly, Dougie, you know, when that mum then said that, you know, he's going to join the army and she's proud of him, I got pretty choked up. My boy gets his GCSEs tomorrow morning, and you know, I think that young lad there is beautiful, proud patriot, proud Scotsman. The mum's done a fantastic job. Please tell them that us watching here in Britain are totally and utterly proud of them. Please tell them.
Indeed, I will. They say that they're so proud of you for wanting to join up, and for you for having the nerve to actually do it with your son.
That's all right.
There you go.
There you go. What a better way to end this part.
Typical teenager, completely shy and overwhelmed by Dougie Beattie. Thank you very, very much. That really has blown my afternoon. Wonderful segment. Thank you very much, Dougie. Now, please go and have a Madry. Now, if you're in search... Now, let's move on, because plenty more comes throughout the rest of the show. But for now, here's your traffic and your travel update. Stay safe, stick with us, and we'll see you soon.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the southbound M90 near Junction 3, a vehicle has broken down, prompting caution for drivers. Eastbound A465 traffic at Glynneath faces difficulty as roadworks have closed the on-slip with diversions in place. In Leeds, a vehicle breakdown has closed one lane on the southbound M1 at Junction 41, potentially causing delays. Norfolk reports significant congestion with 20-minute delays on the A47 westbound between the A140 and A11. And on the trains, major disruptions in the Wigan northwestern area impact journeys on Avanti West Coast and northern routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Very good evening to you. 5:30 the top stories this hour. Well, first breaking news. Israel has said it has begun the first stages of its planned assault on Gaza City. Reports suggest at this stage they already hold the outskirts of the city following clashes with Hamas. Stay with us for more on those developments in the Middle East. Here at home, though, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp is calling for guarantees that migrants won't simply be moved from hotels into apartments. It's after a High Court ruling has ordered the Bell Hotel in Essex to stop housing them by the 12th of September. Councils across England are now seeking legal advice to do the same. A former priest has been found guilty of 17 indecent assaults against 9 women, dating back to his time leading an evangelical movement in Sheffield. Chris Brain showed no emotion as verdicts were delivered today, with jurors still considering further charges. UK inflation has risen faster than expected, up to 3.8% in July. Transport costs soared, with airfares spiking 30% month on month. That's the largest jump since 2001.
The UK has added 8 new names to its Russia sanctions list, targeting crypto networks used to bypass restrictions. Russia, though, has retaliated with counter-sanctions on media, NGOs and consultancies in Britain. And the Royal Mint is sending one last royal wave. 23 million Queen Elizabeth £1 coins are now entering circulation across the UK. The final batch of coins bearing Her Majesty's face is hitting wallets, purses and piggy banks nationwide. Those are the latest headlines for now. More news at 6.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello again, very good day to you. This is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots more fine weather to come as we go through the rest of this week, but at the moment there's still a bit of a breeze across eastern parts and could be a bit chilly for some of us tonight. Currently, yes, there is a weak cold front lying across parts of the southwest, but that's not brought a huge amount of rain. It's just brought some thicker cloud, perhaps across parts of Devon and Cornwall, and will continue to do so for a little while yet. Otherwise, a fine picture to end the day for most of us, and staying dry with some clear skies for many as we go overnight as well. A few showers possible for Orkney and Shetland, and perhaps towards the far coastal parts of East Anglia and Kent as well. Where we get those clear skies towards the west could turn a little chilly, whilst towns and cities are generally going to hold up in double figures. Some rural spots could drop to low single figures. So a bit of a fresh, chilly start tomorrow for many of us. Across parts of southeastern England, a bit more cloud here, still a few coastal showers perhaps, but across the rest of England and Wales it's looking largely fine to start. Some decent sunshine, quite bright across parts of Northern Ireland, some thicker cloud across central southern Scotland, perhaps bringing a few spots of rain, but further north, away from the Northern Isles where there could still be a few showers around, it's looking like a fine start to the day. Now we are going to see a bit more cloud bubbling up perhaps as we go through the morning, but this should actually start to break up again as we go into the afternoon. So across central eastern parts there should be some brighter spells, but perhaps the best of the sunshine towards the southwest and also across northern, northwestern parts of Scotland. In the sunshine, feeling pretty warm with temperatures in the low 20s, but towards those North Sea coastal parts, still a bit more of a breeze, and if you get that, that's going to make it feel fresher, and temperatures will be that little bit lower here as well. Staying fine for many as we go through the end of the day tomorrow, and it's looking fine as we go through Friday and much of the weekend. Yes, there will be a few showers around, but most of us will avoid these, and actually temperatures are going to climb up a little.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. It's 5:38 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, GB News can exclusively reveal that parents at a school in Wiltshire are up in arms at what they call the normalisation of jihad in British classrooms. Now, as you can see on your screen, a picture there, they say their children are being shown posters like this, where jihad is only taught in a positive way, and nothing is mentioned about how it has been used to justify violent extremism or even terrorism, or what they call a turbo-woke school. Well, to have a debate now, I'm joined by the Imam and the President of the Oxford Institute for British Islam, Dr Taj Hagi. Dr Taj, always a pleasure to have your company. What do you make of this? A poster in British classrooms saying Muslim is a noble struggle. Is this correct, or is this normalising radical Islam?
It's outrageous. I mean, firstly, we need to understand that this whole concept of jihad has been misinterpreted and misrepresented by the Islamic clergy. But what's even more troubling is that this poster is produced by a Welsh company, by a man called Chris Malcolm, who's been in this business of doing religious posters. And where did he get this information from that says jihad is it's okay to go and fight and use violence? I mean, this is the issue here, Martin. I mean, why is it that posters like these, produced by bona fide British companies, are just echoing all the fundamentalist, extremist, militant rubbish that the Islamic clergy propagates? I mean, this poster, if you look at it very carefully, it talks about the fact that, you know, Muslims must eat food in a certain manner. Nothing like that in the Quran. This poster also talks about men and women having to pray separately in mosques. Nothing like that in the Quran. So coming back to the whole concept of jihad, jihad is mentioned in the Quran, but it's never ever equated with violence. It's always about a personal struggle to get closer to the Creator, to develop God consciousness, a sense of morality, ethics, and virtue. That is what jihad is. It is the clergy that has now twisted it totally, relying on fabricated sayings of the Prophet Muhammad to justify militancy, violence, and bloodshed. And this is totally unacceptable. But I think the blame should, in this particular case, should first go to this Welsh company in Bridgend that's producing this stuff and circulating to all the schools. Why is no one going after them firstly? Because they are the publishers.
Dr. Taj Hagi, we have in fact got a statement from them. I'll read that out shortly, but I just want to repeat what's on this poster so viewers and listeners at home can understand what British children are being exposed to. Let's get that on the screen again. It says this: jihad is defined, it says, as well as following the 5 pillars of Islam, I must understand jihad and strive to be a good Muslim. Greater jihad is the personal struggle to live a life of obedience to God and to not give into temptation. Lesser jihad is the physical struggle to protect the Islamic faith in the world. And Dr. Taj Hagi, I put it to you, we had a story last week where a Islamic camp for children was cancelled because the Home Office, the government, said it was used as a way of getting young minds used to the softer end of the messaging. And we all know what the broader interpretation of jihad is, and that is holy war. And that is not a noble struggle. Is this drip feeding of the softer message, you think, potentially dangerous down the line?
Absolutely, but let me just first go back. There's no such thing as holy war in the Quran. In fact, the theologian who first came up with this idea of holy war, you may not believe it, is St. Augustine of the Christian faith, of the Catholic religion. So this thing about holy war is an oxymoron. War can never be holy, and that is not being sanctioned by the Quran. And so, yes, back to your question, this is drip feeding. You know, we are by osmosis infecting and conditioning children, both Muslim and others, into this rabid clergy or originated fundamentalist interpretation of Islam. And this must stop. But I think we have to go after the companies that are producing this as well, because where are they getting this stuff? And they can't just say, listen, we've been told by the clergy this is what it is, when it clearly is not actually what the Quran is saying.
OK, thank you for joining us. Outspoken as ever, that is Dr. Taj Hagi. Thanks for joining us on GB News. Now, I'm joined now by my next guest, and that's the former chairman of the Conservative Muslim Forum, Mohammed Amin. Mohammed, welcome to the show. You no doubt heard there, Dr. Taj Hagi. You've seen this poster yourself. Do you think there's a problem here? Is this being used to radicalise British children?
Good afternoon, Martin. Well, I can't account for how the poster is being used. I was asked to look at the poster, the section on jihad, and read it. And in my view, while I would like to reword the last sentence of that section, I don't have any fundamental problems with it.
OK, so the final sentence reads, lesser jihad is the physical struggle to protect the Islamic faith in the world. And I think that's the part, actually, that British parents, certainly the ones I've been contacted by personally, whose children are in this exact school, they think this is basically legitimising the physical struggle to protect the Islamic faith in the world. They see in that as endorsing, ostensibly taking physical action, which could include terrorism.
I would word it something like the following, although bear in mind I'm composing as we go along. lesser jihad is defensive warfare to protect other Muslims from attack.
So you think that would be acceptable in British classrooms? Defensive warfare to prevent Muslims from attack? You'd have that in classrooms?
Well, if Britain was attacked by Russia, do you think it would be right or wrong for Britain to defend itself?
I wouldn't put in classrooms if Britain was attacked. You know, Britons have the right to attack. I mean, that's not the sort of thing to be shown to 11-year-olds.
This is not a theology paper. This is written for children. The important thing it explains is, first of all, the meaning of the word jihad, which is struggle. The greater jihad is the internal religious struggle. The lesser jihad, which has always happened throughout history, is if Muslims are being attacked to defend themselves. It's no different from the Christian just war theory. Taj Hage mentioned St. Augustine. If you look at what St. Augustine actually wrote and what the church has said throughout the centuries, it lays down a long series of conditions before a war can be just. But in certain cases, war is just.
But Mohammed Amin, how do you define attacked? I mean, somebody out there, if you say, if Muslims are attacked, what, verbally? If they're offended? I mean, the problem with this is it's open to interpretation, and any kind of wrong un could interpret it in a bad way, and therefore I put it to you, why drip feed this into 11-year-olds? It's simply not needed.
If children ask questions about what the meaning of attack is, you make it quite clear this is people trying to kill you. Furthermore, there are all kinds of Muslim rules about jihad has to be declared by the authorities. And right now, there is no authority in the world which is legally empowered to declare jihad. But the idea that we make jihad into some kind of bad word, or that we imply that we never use the word jihad, is frankly ridiculous.
Well, jihad was a word used by ISIS.
Yes, jihad was a word used by ISIS, and they were totally misusing it. But I'm not going to let ISIS break out my religion.
If the same word, by your own definition, can be interpreted in different ways by psychopaths, why introduce the word at all to children?
Because the word has been there as part of Islam throughout the century. As Taj Hage mentioned, the word occurs in the Quran. I'm not going to apologise for the word jihad.
OK, you've made your point strongly. That's the former chairman of the Conservative Muslim Forum, Mohammed Amin. Thank you for your time today on GB News. Well, we've reached out to the school, but they have not responded. That's a school in Wiltshire. And just to be clear, we have tried repeatedly over many, many days. They haven't responded to us. But the Daydream Foundation, who produces those posters, they told GB News this. Our I Am a Muslim poster is part of a balanced religious education set used to teach understanding of major world faiths. In line with GCSE materials, jihad is presented as to struggle, primarily an inner moral struggle. Any reference to lesser jihad is framed as defensive, tightly constrained, and never a justification for violence or extremism. We condemn violent extremism unequivocally and support schools' safeguarding responsibilities under the Prevent duty. Now, coming up, a pub landlord was ordered to remove Union flags from outside his boozer, and he joins me next. This is GB News, Britain's News Channel. You with me, Martin Daubney.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
We're reigning supreme this morning. I'm so happy.
Did you watch it then? Did you enjoy it?
I was a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
Honestly. Why did it come down to the crunch like that?
Because it's England. You know what? No matter whether it's the women or the men, it still keeps you on the edge of your seat. But they've got this resilience. The thing is that we've never seen with the men before. I suppose it's changed a little bit, but it really is that. I don't want to use any cliches, but that's my job. That's my job. Never say die attitude. And it was terrific. Do you know, though, For how long, out of the 3 knockout games that England played after the group stage, for how long they were actually ahead?
Go on.
Don't worry, I'll tell you. 4 minutes and 52 seconds across 3 entire games was the amount of time they were actually ahead. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make any difference.
No. Yeah.
They came back and they won it. It was
would it have been better? I'm going to say.
Are you looking at
you know, but in terms of if we'd had a stronger game, if we'd been really punching in this rather than it going right down to the wire.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it really. I honestly don't think it matters. It's just about who wins, and when you've got a trophy. Which is up for grabs there, and also for the second time that the Lionesses have done it, and they were underdogs. I mean,
were they?
Yeah, they were. Yeah. You'll have players that will say, "Oh no, I don't think so." And I said to you on Friday, there wasn't much in it.
Yeah, they were of equal
but the Spanish team were the favourites. They're the world champions, and also pound for pound, if you look player for player, again, there's another cliche for you. They would have been the better side, but it's a team game. It's how everybody reacts together, how everybody plays alongside each other, and the management.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 5:51. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, GB News can exclusively reveal that parents at a school in Wiltshire are up in arms at what they call the normalisation of jihad in British classrooms. Take a look at that poster. That was displayed to 11-year-olds at a secondary school in Britain, and in one corner it talks about what jihad is. I was contacted by a parent who thinks this is simply radicalising children in classrooms, has no place in British schools. Before the break, we had an incredible debate with a couple of Muslim scholars, and I don't think we got any nearer to justifying that particular poster being in British classrooms. Nigel Nelson, I don't think we need this in our classrooms. What say you?
Yes, we do. I think that the objections to it are absolutely ludicrous. What this poster is saying in very simple terms is what it means to be a Muslim. And you can no more take jihad out of that than you could say take the cross out of Christianity.
No. This is the poster on classrooms. There's no poster about Christianity and killing people.
Well, if there was.
Specifically talked. The phrase that's got parents up in arms is jihad is the physical struggle to protect the Islamic faith in the world. And when I put that to a Muslim scholar, he said, I'd go further. I'd say I would defend Muslims' right to attack anybody who attacked them. The problem with that, Nigel Nelson, what does attack mean? Verbally? Islamophobia? That's the point. Well, you plant these bad seeds, you create potential problems. This should not be in British classrooms.
The Quran, like the Bible, is a holy book and open to interpretation by a variety of different people.
Precisely, and it has bad actors who take terrible takes and blow people up.
But the important thing is jihad is a really important part of Islam. As those two Muslims explained to us a second ago, the word actually means struggle. It's basically about an inner struggle, which is the greater jihad.
You might interpret it that way.
Well, I don't know,
as a non-Muslim, white, middle-aged man, what about somebody who's not of that mindset, who clearly has a big problem? We've seen problems. Why take the risk?
Because it's somebody who doesn't understand jihad. So, of course, we're bombarded with the idea of jihad from the Middle East, and you mentioned ISIS, we mentioned Hamas, that they're involved in jihad. We have a terrorist group, Islamic Jihad.
OK, we have to leave it there. We won't ever agree on this. Somebody who have a strong word on this to say, no doubt, is Michelle Dewberry. Jubes & Co. is up next, the Queen of primetime debate. Michelle Dewberry, what's on your menu?
Hello, Martin. Thank you very much for that. There are a lot that we need to discuss tonight on the programme. Have you seen that women's letter? Lots of charities now have written an open letter saying stop focusing on foreign nationals when it comes to the threat of sexual violence against women. I want to explore that. Also, your home being your castle. Capital gains tax being explored potentially on primary residents. What? Of course, get yourself a cup of tea. And as per usual, the debate will commence in a few minutes. Zia Youssef, Aaron Bastani and me. See you in a sec.
Today, clouds overhead.
total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, very good day to you. This is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots more fine weather to come as we go through the rest of this week, but at the moment there's still a bit of a breeze across eastern parts and could be a bit chilly for some of us tonight. Currently, yes, there is a weak cold front lying across parts of the southwest, but that's not brought a huge amount of rain. It's just brought some thicker cloud, perhaps across parts of Devon and Cornwall, and will continue to do so for a little while yet. Otherwise, a fine picture to end the day for most of us, and staying dry with some clear skies for many as we go overnight as well. A few showers possible for Orkney and Shetland, and perhaps towards the far coastal parts of East Anglia and Kent as well. Where we get those clear skies towards the west could turn a little chilly, whilst towns and cities are generally going to hold up in double figures. Some rural spots could drop to low single figures. So a bit of a fresh, chilly start tomorrow for many of us. Across parts of southeastern England, a bit more cloud here, still a few coastal showers perhaps, but across the rest of England and Wales it's looking largely fine to start. Some decent sunshine, quite bright across parts of Northern Ireland, some thicker cloud across central southern Scotland, perhaps bringing a few spots of rain, but further north, away from the Northern Isles where there could still be a few showers around, it's looking like a fine start to the day. Now we are going to see a bit more cloud bubbling up perhaps as we go through the morning, but this should actually start to break up again as we go into the afternoon. So across central eastern parts there should be some brighter spells, but perhaps the best of the sunshine towards the southwest and also across northwestern parts of Scotland. In the sunshine, feeling pretty warm with temperatures in the low 20s, but towards those North Sea coastal parts, still a bit more of a breeze, and if you get that, that's going to make it feel fresher, and temperatures will be that little bit lower here as well. Staying fine for many as we go through the end of the day tomorrow, and it's looking fine as we go through Friday and much of the weekend. Yes, there will be a few showers around, but most of us will avoid these, and actually temperatures are going to climb